Cornwall in particular. However, overnight, the clearer skies become much more widespread, especially across parts of Scotland, eastern and central England, and later on the south. So under those clear skies, temperatures will fall away. A frost is expected in places, particularly for the northern half of the UK, where temperatures will dip a couple of degrees below freezing, although enough of a breeze in the south, I think, to stir the air up and prevent a frost. But it will be a chilly start. However, through the morning, sunshine will soon warm things up, and there will be plenty of sunshine across most of the UK. Northern Ireland likely to keep a bit more cloudy into the afternoon. Otherwise, it's bright blue skies, a bit of a breeze, and that will make it feel on the cool side, but out of the breeze with the increasingly strong sun feeling very pleasant.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're giving you the chance to splash out this season with an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash. Jet off on your dream holiday, treat yourself to something special, or just save it for a rainy day. You'll also receive 2 brand new designer watches and a Mulberry handbag, so you can really look the part this spring. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
I know. So, Chef Theo Michaels joins us in the studio to talk about this. We know we've got a problem with food waste in this country, Theo, but this idea that there's a younger generation who are just reading the back of a packet and going, well, that must have gone off then, throwing it in the bin. Why do they do that when maybe we wouldn't?
Do you know what? I think we live in an increasingly sanitised, bubble-wrapped world, right, where we've become detached from our food, we've become detached from using a bit of common sense. And so I think there's a generation that are doing exactly this. They're looking at a best before date to start with, which actually is meaningless. Best before date is me turning around to you two going, the fish should be at its prime on Tuesday, right? Yeah. But that's not the use-by date. The use-by date could be a week later. You know, we say the sniff test. That's what we should be doing. So I've had it before. I had a great experience once. I walked into a supermarket and I saw an Italian guy I know, and he was jumping around with so much excitement as he was collecting handfuls of Parmesan cheese that they said, oh, it was going out of date. And he was laughing, so he was going, we age this stuff for years. Yes. It doesn't go out of date. Yeah. So he was buying it by the truckload. And I think the key thing is there is this sort of sniff test that people talk about, but it's absolutely right. It's ingrained in us. It's instinctive that if we smell something that's off, it's like giving someone a dose of salts.
I'm also wondering, with these dates on these packaging, did it actually do a favour to the supermarkets because it meant that you're throwing them away and buying less?
100%.
Buying more.
The use-by dates only came out in the 70s, right? And that was done by one particular supermarket. And for me, I can't help be cynical about it, Bevan.
Who was it?
It was Marks and Spencer's.
Was it?
Marks and Spencer's in the 70s.
They all followed suit.
And yet...
They all followed suit.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hey, very good afternoon to you. It's 3 p.m. Sorry, all the screens are frozen. It's 3 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. A very happy St Patrick's Day to you, broadcasting live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. On today's show, Nigel Farage tried to put the Rupert Lowe civil war behind him today by announcing 29 councillors have now defected to Reform UK. But Reform set to soar in May and the Tories plunge. Will it be enough? Shamed former Labour MP Mike Amesbury has sat down with GB News for his first TV interview since he was jailed for punching a constituent. Can the Runcorn Rocky drag his shattered reputation off the canvas? Or has his reputation been landed a knockout blow? And has Motability, the government's scheme to provide cars to the disabled, morphed into a £7 billion scam? Well, the scheme now supplies 1/5 of all new British cars, but ADHD claims alone have rocketed by an astonishing 1,400%. Newcastle United have made history by winning their first cup in almost 70 years. On today's show, I'll be joined by the former United owner, Sir John Hall, the man who signed Kevin Keegan and broke the transfer record to bring Alan Shearer to Newcastle. And he'd given up on Toon winning anything in my lifetime. But that dream became a reality yesterday. Well, the show is a pleasure to have your company. Very, very happy St Patrick's Day to you. Resplendent in green here. Hope you're having a great day. So today was a day that Nigel Farage put on a united front. 29 defector councillors on the stage talking down the Rupert Lowe situation. Was it enough to convince you? Was it enough to convince you to carry on voting for reform or even to go with them? Or are you having second thoughts after the most difficult 2 weeks in the party's history? Get in touch, gbnews.com/you'll say is the way to do it. That's your headlines, and it's Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Martin. A very good afternoon to you. Our top stories. Nigel Farage has announced the 29 councillors who've defected to Reform ahead of local elections in May. Speaking at a Reform UK News conference, the party leader announced that it was a selection of parties from whom they had defected from: Conservatives, Lib Dems, Labour and other independent groups. Well, the event comes in the wake of that dramatic row between Mr Farage and Rupert Lowe, which he also addressed during his speech. He says the party have become increasingly concerned about Mr Lowe's conduct.
Let's just suspend the whip and let's find out what the truth is. And we will wait. First, we will get the report from the independent King's Counsel, who's been appointed. I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but some anticipation that it might happen during the course of this week. And later on, perhaps it'll take some time, we'll hear from the relevant parliamentary committee too. Has it caused some consternation? Of course it has. Any argument that seemed to happen within the family does. But I can promise you that in terms of our progress and our planning, that upset is very much at the edges.
Downing Street says there are moral and economic reasons to change the welfare system. Sir Keir Starmer's spokesman says the Prime Minister's determined to fix a broken social security system he believes is holding the country back. He denied the upcoming welfare reforms are being carried out because of the current economic climate. Well, the government preparing to make a series of major announcements overhauling the welfare system tomorrow. The Work and Pension Secretary Liz Kendall expected to restrict access to some sickness and disability benefits. It follows comments from the Health Secretary that the UK is over-diagnosing mental health conditions, with the number of people claiming disability benefits for anxiety and depression doubling in the past decade. Well, meanwhile, Economic Secretary to the Treasury Emma Reynolds agrees with Wes Streeting, but she's assured GB News the most vulnerable people will be protected.
We need to follow the evidence on this, but we have about 1,000 people every day claiming personal independence payments. That seems out of kilter with the prevalence of some of these conditions. We do need to help people and tailor their support, but we also need to look at the assessment system and see how that needs to be reformed. So yes, there are big problems here that we intend to solve, and as I've said, Liz Kendall will set out the package of measures. We set up the welfare state in 1945, and those with severe disabilities and the most vulnerable will be protected. We believe in the safety net and we believe in helping those people.
Donald Trump says he and Vladimir Putin will discuss land, power plants and dividing up certain assets when they hold talks about Ukraine tomorrow. The US president says he hopes to have something to announce on Tuesday. Well, the Kremlin's confirmed the call will take place. Russia, though, have yet to agree to the 30-day ceasefire plan presented by the US last week. They want Ukraine to be prevented from joining NATO. Well, the EU's top diplomat, Kaja Kallas, has said today Russia does not really want peace. Meanwhile, Ukraine and Russia have continued to trade drone and missile attacks. The mayor of Kyiv, Vitaly Klitschko, says the capital was hit overnight, while damage from a Ukrainian strike has been reported in southern Russia. A British tourist is missing after a fire broke out on a diving boat in Thailand. 26-year-old backpacker Alexander Clark was reportedly in the bathroom when the blaze began on Sunday morning. That's local time. The police there have said at least 16 people were on board. At the time, they were all tourists. Thames Water's managed to avoid effective government ownership after an unsuccessful legal challenge to its financial restructuring. Appeals against the approval of a plan to restructure Thames Water through a loan of up to £3 billion has been dismissed. The Court of Appeal judges have said the decision backs up the High Court judgment of last month and means the UK's biggest water supplier is unlikely to be taken into special administration, a form of government control, in the coming days. Finally, the Princess of Wales has marked St Patrick's Day with the Irish Guards Regiment in London. Catherine visited Wellington Barracks and presented medals to soldiers who have recently returned from Iraq. And she was also seen sipping a pint of Guinness, very on trend. I'll try and bring you pictures of that a little later. That's it for the moment. More from me at 3:30.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Aaron. Now, Nigel Farage has welcomed 29 councillors who have defected to Reform UK ahead of those local elections in May, as he insisted the party would not be damaged by the row involving Rupert Lowe.
We are growing, we are building, we are deepening, we are broadening, we are strengthening, we are getting ready for the 1st of May. This party is very, very much on the up.
So there we go. 15 of those councillors have joined from the Tories, 13 from the Independents, and 1, surprisingly, what are they smoking, from the Liberal Democrats, in a further blow to Kemi Badenoch's party, that is. And joining me now in the studio for full reaction is the man who was there, GB News' political editor, Chris Hope. Let's start with the first point. This was meant to be, we've had a bumpy couple of weeks with Rupert Lowe, but never mind. Here's 29 councillors we're putting out there. Was that sufficient, you think, to throw a positive message across? First of all, did it unite Reform?
Martin, great to see you again in the studio. Of course, I was in Hull last week when I didn't see you. I mean, maybe. I think it was a bit low-key. It felt like a forced announcement from Reform. They've had 2 weeks of difficult news with the Rupert Lowe fallout. We had an update in that press conference. He says the KC employed by the party on thousands of pounds, probably, if they're being paid as they should be, or members' money, will come back this week. I thought, though, he seemed more optimistic in interviews afterwards about whether he had a way back in. The Tory party is saying to us, so it's a sham announcement. They're saying that of the 29 councillors Farage paraded on stage, in their words, only 7 of them were new. 22 of them previously had been announced by Farage, probably not on the same platform. And then what they try and do is get the whole campaign off to a running start. Next week, the short campaign starts for the May the 1st local elections. So we'll wait and see where that is. They're trying to get ahead. So he says he's got their 30 events planned. You'll see Farage the campaigner over the next 6 weeks.
And about 5:30 today, Kemi Badenoch actually is due to speak on the future of the Conservative Party. Are the Conservative Party united? Over the weekend, conversation was about uniting the right, a smoke and mirrors meeting. between Dominic Cummings and Nigel Farage, of course, previously sworn enemies.
I mean, it's worth saying that again. Dominic Cummings, you know, the person who literally couldn't stand the idea of Farage being anywhere near Brexit back in 2016, now having dinner, as Farage said there, and as confirmed to us on GBNews today. But this Unite the Right idea is, at some point, people think that the Tory party wants to win power. How will it do that? Let's get together with Farage's lot. They are quite similar. And earlier I spoke to Nigel Farage for GBNews on this very point, and here's what he told us. In terms of this Unite the Right campaign...
Oh, please.
Will you unite right and do a deal with the Tories?
I don't know what you're talking about. You know, can you even imagine if we contemplated a deal with the Conservatives? Half our voters are stay at home. They don't want the Conservative Party. They've been failed by it. They want something new. They want something fresh. They want something with genuine ideas and values.
You mentioned just finally there, Rupert Lowe. Is he dead to you? Can he get back in if he's cleared by the investigation or the KC?
Well, let's just see what the investigations say. I wasn't very happy last week. He suggested that I'd try to stop him talking about rape gangs. I mean, nonsense. But look, let's wait and see.
Let's wait and see. And I think, and I've been a Farage watcher for far too long. I've gone grey during the process, like Nigel Farage has himself. And I wonder whether he's seeing there's no point in fighting amongst each other. The bigger battle is with the Tory party and the Labour Party. And that battle will come into sharp focus at the Runcorn and Helsbury by-election. Mike Amesbury resigning on GBNews earlier with my colleague Gloria Di Piero. That's what everyone's talking about now in Parliament. Here's what he told us.
Mike Amesbury, MP. You're still an MP. Last Monday, a week ago today, you gave an interview saying that you intended to formally resign as an MP at the earliest opportunity. When will that be?
Today. So, as from today, I will no longer be the Member of Parliament for Runcorn and Helsbury after nearly 8 years as being an MP.
How do you feel today?
Sad. Devastated. Not only for me, but you know, my staff as well, because of course it goes beyond me. For my family, this is a result of something that I did on October the 26th. I do have, as part of my sentence, an alcohol tag. So that's
got to wear an alcohol tag.
Yes, on my ankle. That's all the time, and I think it measures your sweat. So in terms of zero alcohol.
How long do you have to wear that?
I think it's 120 days with the tag, but it's a year with monitoring.
Right.
Yes.
So, what happened that night is alcohol was a contributing factor, but it doesn't sound like you have a problem with alcohol. Do you have a problem with managing your anger?
Look. If you were to ask people that I know, friends, family, staff, I would say I'm usually quite calm and measured. Other parliamentarians, right across the piece. But clearly that night, yes, I look at what I've done and I don't recognise myself. I'm uncomfortable with it. My reaction to Mr. Fellows. So, as part of my sentencing, you know, it refers to anger management there. I think it's 20 hours. I've been having some support already through a psychiatrist.
Right. So what do you want to say to your, or what do you say to your wife instead?
I say sorry. You know, my son, I've gone from hero to zero. I've altered things from my family and a few moments of absolute madness. And I'm sorry to, again, I said it publicly and I'll say it over and over again to Mr. Fellows, who's the victim here, and his family.
I want to ask you something about male violence.
Yes.
So what we saw in that video, there are probably versions of that event going on in our towns and cities with men, largely.
Yeah.
Perhaps every weekend.
Yes.
What do we do about this thing that we call male violence?
Yes.
Do you have any insights into that? Can you help to stop people losing everything like you have?
Well, I hope this serves as an example. 55 years, I've not had any trouble with the police, wrong side of the law. And here I am. I've gone from, as a shadow minister in various portfolios. I hoped I was going to be a minister, but that didn't happen. I've gone from just a few months ago being in number 10. I was on the green benches to just 3 weeks ago sitting on the hard benches in a prison cell. With other people who have made massive mistakes in their lives. And it demonstrates the consequences of that. And if there's anything that I can do, over a period of time, not just the interview today, is to learn from my actions, but to educate people of the consequences you can be, certainly a high point in your career, I think everything's going for you, and then you make a stupid mistake and didn't walk away, resorted to what I did, which, there for the grace of God, it could have been much worse. The charity One Punch do some great work, and undoubtedly, and rightfully so, critical of what I've done. If there's anything I can do, which I will, demonstrate, look, it's unacceptable and there's consequences to it.
Mike Amesbury there, the former MP quitting on GB News today. We'll hear later at some point when the date of this by-election might be. I mean, for just briefly reflecting on that, there's a guy there who made a big mistake. He's paid the price. He got a suspended sentence. I know that viewers and maybe yourself are not on this side, but I think it's a moving interview there with Gloria De Piero.
He seems to be one of those, perhaps, people who's only upset because he got caught. I digress. Let's move on now and speak with the Professor of Politics at the University of Strathclyde, Sir John Curtis. Sir John, always a delight to have you on the show. And, of course, Mike Amesbury is back in the news because all eyes now are on Runcorn, the forthcoming by-election. Now, we know the starter pistol has effectively been fired. There was some rather interesting polling towards the tail end of last week, saying there could be an astonishing swing. This seat in the Republic of Merseyside, it's been Labour forever, could potentially swing towards Reform. What are your polls telling you?
Well, that's certainly what one poll has said. There's been some question marks asked about the sampling in this poll and whether it undersampled places where Labour might do rather better. But certainly it's worth bearing in mind that if Reform were managed to win the seat, and I think, it's will be a substantial challenge for them, but not necessarily an impossible one. If they were to pull it off, this would be the first time that a Eurosceptic party has managed to win a party afresh in a by-election. You'll remember UKIP fought a number of by-elections in their rise through to the 2015 election, but the two by-elections they won in Clacton and in Rochester were in seats where the incumbent Conservative MP was standing down and then re-standing as the UKIP candidate. So it certainly would be a notable achievement, albeit perhaps a rather difficult one, but that, of course, in a sense, makes it more notable. I think we're probably anticipating that Labour will want to bury any bad news that there might be by holding the election on the same day as the local elections on the 1st of May, which, of course, that's what Nigel Farage was primarily focusing on in that press conference earlier today.
And on that precise point, Sir John Curtis, what are we looking at in terms of polling? Again, there are some polls out at the tail end of last week showing that it'd be the Conservatives that could take a good hiding in May. Of course, the last time they won those elections was at the very height, the very pinnacle of Boris Johnson's regime before things started to go, how should we say, pear-shaped. What are the polls telling us about the likely direction of travel in those local elections in May?
Well, we've had one attempt to try to translate what might, given where we are in the polls, what might happen in the local elections. That suggested the Reform might pick up around 470 of the 1,500, 1,600 seats, and that certainly the Conservatives were at risk of losing something like that number. Now, I have to say to you, the record of attempts to try to forecast the outcome of local elections is littered with many a failure. But certainly, I mean, if we certainly focus on the national polls, I think the rise in Reform support has now stopped. I don't think necessarily anything to do with Rupert Lowe. The stop, I think, was evident before that, but they've stopped at around 25%, which puts them more or less equal with Labour and 2 or 3 points ahead of the Conservatives. So if indeed Reform can reflect anything like that kind of level of support in the local elections, particularly given that the elections, you're right, it's not just, these were places that were last contested when the Tories were riding high, but these are also, in the local council elections at least, very heavily places which are Conservative in the first place, even in the worst of years. Reform should be looking to try to make significant gains. With the other crucial announcement we heard from the press conference is that Reform are aiming to fight pretty much all the 1,500, 1,600 seats, and that in itself will be an achievement. Reform hitherto have fought a little bit in the local elections last year. UKIP made a bit of progress in local government, but never any sustained progress. If Reform are going to achieve the objective they set out for themselves of becoming a regular political party with a local organisation everywhere, with activists everywhere, doing well in local elections is an important pathway to that. Not that many local elections this year, but the ones there are will be an important marker for the party's attempts to try to become, as it were, part of the fabric and the weft and the weave of British politics.
OK, thank you very much. We'll have to leave it there. We're simply running out of time for now. Thank you very much. That's the Professor of Politics at the University of Strathclyde, Sir John Curtis. Thank you very, very much. Quick reaction to you there, Chris. It seems to be the direction travel looks like Reform could be picking up a few bits and bobs here.
Yes, I was going to ask him they've had a chance there. There's been 29 by-elections since the 1st of January. Reform fought 27 and won just 4. Yeah. 2 from the Tories, 2 from Labour. So I just wonder whether have we hit the peak Reform numbers in the polls? And if so, given they can't go above 25%, does that mean they're more likely to do a deal with the Tory party? The idea of unite the right, as much as Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage don't want to talk about it, is what is obsessing Westminster. OK, more of that later on. Of course, Kemi Badenoch due to speak around about 5:30. We'll carry that live on the show. Thank you, Chris. Superb as ever. Now, TikTok influencers are encouraging the public to cash in on brand new cars under the controversial taxpayer-funded Motability scheme. Is it now a £7 billion scam? More on that next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 3:26 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News on St Patrick's Day. Now, has Motability, the government scheme to provide cars to the disabled, morphed into a £7 billion scam? Well, the scheme now supplies 1/5 of all new British cars. But listen to this. ADHD claims have rocketed by an incredible 1,400%. And now balaclava-clad benefit-claiming TikTokers are encouraging the public to cash in on this under the controversial taxpayer-funded scheme. Have a look.
You could get an Abarth 695 Sport, the one with the nice exhaust system, for £500. That is absolutely insane. If you have a family member who's on PIP, or if you're on PIP yourself, you can exchange that allowance to get this car, and realistically it's £300 per month. I mean, insurance, my insurance is £300 per month. You get a full car that's fully insured, maintained, serviced, and you get 60,000 miles for £500. And in fact, if you get it today, you don't have to pay a penny. So it's essentially free.
What an absolute plank. And joining me now is the media campaign manager of the Taxpayers Alliance. He's not one of them. It's William Yarwood. William, this started off as a laudable scheme to understandably and you know, all good reason to help the neediest. This, when you see someone in a balaclava encouraging people to be able to scam a car, that's how it feels for a few grand. Then when you look at some of the figures you've got, it's turned into something altogether different. Talk us through some of these incredible numbers you've got here.
Yeah, can I first just say that video makes me pretty sick, actually, because that's making a mockery of people who are genuinely disabled and genuinely need hope, and the person who made that should be, quite frankly, ashamed of themselves. But this is the issue with modern Britain, and we have a sort of sick note culture and a system which people think they can easily game. In regards to Motability more specifically, you mentioned the 1,400% increase in ADHD claims. There's also claims for autism. So there's an autism claim of it's increased by over 700%, which is pretty crazy. And that's costing billions and billions of pounds to our ordinary taxpayers, many of whom can't afford the cars themselves, have to get on, you know, public transport and the like, and quite frankly are suffering under a record high tax burden. All the while, people like that person on that TikTok video are gaming the system and shafting hardworking taxpayers. And I frankly think, Martin, it's not fair at all.
And that's the way it seems to be here. People seem to, with the same problem with benefits bills per se. It's like now the more of it is mental health and not physical disability. It's harder, if you like, to prove. How do we know somebody has got ADHD and that to a point where it actually stops them being a functioning everyday human? And how do we know it's not just somebody who's watched a TikTok video who's decided I can get a free car for £7 grand because everyone's at it, well, hey, let's get stuck in. And isn't that the problem? It's now gone from helping the neediest to something which is just helping people, it seems, to get around the rules, and as you say, it's the taxpayers picking up the bill.
Yeah, totally. And in regards to how people are getting diagnosed with these sort of things, ever since COVID ended, do you know that only like 2% of claims for the DWP they're only done in person? It used to be 80% done in person before the pandemic. So the pandemic completely revolutionised and sort of destroyed the stigma around dealing with the welfare state, to the point where people can say trigger words, so to speak. They'll say they're suicidal, they've got depression. they can't sleep, so on and so forth. And they will just sign off those checks and go, yep, there we go. But actually, there's an incentive inside of the system. Fraser Nelson did an excellent documentary on Channel 4 dispatches on this exact issue and found that actually DWP assessors are incentivised to push through as many claims as possible. Do you know why? Because it's more profitable.
It's more profitable to put cases through.
Yeah. So they get about £80 a day. £80 per, yes, because they farm them out to private companies.
Oh, my God.
And in regards to Motability's profitability, I mean, they're happy with all of this. I mean, Motability had a turnover of over £7 billion last year, and the charity behind it, Martin, they're sitting on reserves of over £4 billion. Right? So that's all stemmed from taxpayers' money. That's not coming from the private sector. So it's a huge scam, and actually I think it's a huge Ponzi scheme, and the more we're talking about it, the more I think it's about to explode.
And the numbers of the salary, the Motability CEO, Andrew Miller, this is all official data, this is all out there. He's on 460 grand plus 198 grand bonuses. And as you say, the more cars they knock out, then the bigger the bonus, right? That's the way this works. When you add all of that up, it's basically him and his chief financial officer. It's basically £1 billion.
Yeah. Basically.
It's £1 million. Yeah. It's £1 million between the pair of them, and their job is to make sure more cars go out to taxpayers or not taxpayers, to those on benefits. That's the point, right?
Yeah.
This would be perhaps a great idea if it were a private enterprise. It's not.
Yeah, quite exactly. I mean, as I said earlier, many taxpayers just can't afford cars in the current climate due to the cost of living crisis, due to the fact that we're now sitting under a record high tax burden. But yeah, there's been just a breakdown in social trust in the UK, especially post-COVID, to the extent where people feel like, well, if someone else is gaming the system, I'll be able to game the system too. And we've seen it with the rise of influencers, not just to do with Motability, but to do with all kinds of disability benefits. I mean, the Times did an excellent piece on this, which meant that welfare claimants had just skyrocketed over the last few years. It's quite scary, actually, because our welfare bill is just growing and growing and growing. And the current Labour government says they want to try and sort out this welfare bill, but they've got a hell of a task on their hands. And quite frankly, the last Conservative government didn't do much about it, and I'm not sure this one will either.
The current benefits bill is on course to be £100 billion per year.
More than we spend on defence.
More we spend on defence by the end of this decade, by 2040, beg your pardon. An eye-watering sum of money. Thank you very much for joining us. William Yarwood, Media Campaign Manager, Taxpayers Alliance. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, in response, the Department of Work and Pensions has given us this statement. The scheme comes at no additional cost to the taxpayer. People claiming benefits must sacrifice some of their existing payments to lease a car. There's lots more still to come between now and 4 o'clock, including top of the afternoon to you. It's St Paddy's Day. And in Ireland, they're getting shamrocked. We'll cross there live next. But first, it's your headlines with Aaron Armstrong. Who writes that?
Thank you very much indeed, Martin. Good afternoon to you. It's just after 3:30. Nigel Farage has welcomed 29 councillors who've defected to Reform ahead of the local elections in May. It takes the party's total number of council seats to more than 100. While speaking at a Reform UK news conference in Westminster, the party leader announced the defections from a selection of parties, including Conservatives, Lib Dems, Labour and independent groups, and said it demonstrated how his party was broadening and deepening.
We are growing, we are building, we are deepening, we are broadening, we are strengthening, we are getting ready for the 1st of May. This party is very, very much on the up.
Downing Street says there are both moral and economic reasons to change the welfare system as the Prime Minister comes under pressure from Labour MPs over the plans. The Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall confirmed to the House of Commons a short time ago that the controversial cuts to benefits will be announced imminently to, in her words, ensure there's trust and fairness in the social security system and ensure it's there for people who need it now and for years to come. Well, Sir Keir Starmer's spokesman says the Prime Minister's determined to fix the broken system he believes is holding the country back. He's denied the upcoming reforms are being carried out because of the current economic climate, and it follows comments from the Health Secretary Wes Streeting that the UK is over-diagnosing mental health conditions, with the number of people claiming benefits for anxiety and depression doubling in the past decade. More than 30 countries are understood to be involved in Sir Keir Starmer's coalition of the willing peacekeeping attempt. That's according to a Downing Street briefing. It comes as Donald Trump has said he will speak to Vladimir Putin on Tuesday about ending the war in Ukraine and, in his words, dividing up certain assets. The US president says he and Putin will also discuss land and power plants when they hold talks. Thames Water has managed to avoid effective government ownership after an unsuccessful legal challenge to its financial restructuring. Appeals against the approval of a plan to restructure Thames Water through the loan of up to £3 billion have been dismissed in the Court of Appeal. The decision backs the High Court judgment last month that means the UK's biggest water supplier is unlikely to be taken into special administration, that's a form of government control, for at least another 12 months. The Princess of Wales has marked St Patrick's Day with the Irish Guards Regiment in London. Catherine visited Wellington Barracks and presented medals to soldiers who've recently returned from Iraq, and she was also seen sipping a pint of Guinness. That's it for the moment. More from me at 4 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm Alan Wright. In Northumberland at East Thurston, the A1 has been shut in both directions. That's after a collision. The A1 closed between the East Thurston turnoff and the Swallen junction. In South Yorkshire, the M1 southbound is partly blocked by a broken down lorry. It's between junction 35 for Rotherham and 34 for Meadowhall. In Cheshire, there are 2 lanes shut on the M6 northbound. That's after a collision involving an overturned car between Middlewich at junction 18 and the Knutsford turnoff at junction 19. And in the West Midlands, the M6 is partly blocked northbound after a collision between Wednesbury at junction 9 and Wolverhampton at junction 10.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
I ended up being hospitalised and I was diagnosed with it within the first few days of being in hospital. I was in hospital for 2 months and I came out about 13 months ago, something like that. And I realised that there are people that aren't as lucky as me that don't have that platform to be able to talk about it, bring it out in the public, and deal with the stigma, because there is still a stigma.
A lot of people don't really know what bipolar is. So in you, Heston, how did it manifest itself?
It's funny because before the diagnosis, I mean, many things, from thinking the TV was talking to me to hallucinating stuff. The downside is suicidal thoughts, which seemed normal at the time. The upside is the thing is grandiosity, somewhere between Superman and Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Save the world, love everybody, everything is fantastic. And then it comes crashing down. It's a bit like a toddler, you know, an overexcited child. And when a kid gets overexcited, and then something happens, and then they start crying.
Wow. So massive highs, big lows.
Yeah, but I thought everything was normal. It's only now that I've come out the other side, so to speak, that I look back and can see some of the character traits. I mean, my patience levels were almost non-existent before. I'm a lot more patient. I'm talking much slower. I was talking very quickly.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 3:39 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, very, very St Patrick's Day to you, because millions and millions of people across the globe are gathering to mark this momentous occasion. And we're joined now by GB News reporters Sophie Reaper, who's in Liverpool, and Doogie Beattie, who's in Downpatrick. The spirits are flowing, so is the Guinness. First, let's get to you, Sophie Reaper in Liverpool.
Well, good afternoon to you, Martin, and happy St Patrick's Day. People are lining the streets in their thousands this afternoon in Liverpool, and here behind me is the reason why we're joining the Liverpool Irish Parade through the city centre this afternoon. There are thousands and thousands of people here, and that is because around 75% of the population of this city have some sort of Irish heritage. There's a lot of Irish pride here in Liverpool today. People have been out drinking from the early hours of this morning. I'm sure that will go on to the early hours of tomorrow morning, but let's just see if we can get a word from someone taking part in the parade. Excuse me, my love, do you mind me asking how proud you are to be celebrating St Patrick's Day today?
Ask him.
No, fair enough. What about yourself? How proud are you to be part of the
Very
parade?
very proud of it.
Irish heritage?
Yes, family, yeah.
Having a good day? Yeah. And what about yourself on the end, if you don't mind me asking? Are you enjoying St Patrick's Day in Liverpool today?
Best day in Liverpool of the year.
Is it? Have you got Irish heritage?
Yeah, County Mayo.
There you go. Thank you very much. A lot of Irish pride, as I said, here in Liverpool. We're trying to stay on our feet here, Martin. Look, like many of the people here, but perhaps for them it's because they've been on the Guinness. For us, it's because the crowds are so massive.
Sophie Reaper, excellent, and you're not surprised a few of those Scouse lads behind you may be a bit under the weather today, having lost the cup yesterday to Toon. I digress. Let's go now to Doogie Beattie, who's down there in Downpatrick, and I suppose that Paddy's been doing plenty of downing of the pints and the Jamesons, Doogie.
Well, they will be later on. St Patrick's Day in Northern Ireland is a public holiday for a lot of schools, so the first half of St Patrick's Day is always very family oriented. You can see at this point in the square here, we can't go much further or we'll be drowned out by the group on stage, but there is thousands of children running about here with their parents. This morning we were up watching the Irish dancing, with the fiddle playing, etc. All fantastic stuff, and all very much aimed at the culture of Ireland and aimed really at the family and what the patron saint means towards them. Now, just about 6 or 7 o'clock this evening, I can assure you the children will be left home and things will go slightly mad, to say the very least. But it has been a fantastic day so far. We've seen the carnival parade. It lasted about an hour down through the centre of Downpatrick that had all sorts of floats, community organisations on board, and really it is about the ownership of the culture of the people and what their patron saint means to them. And of course that patron saint is always based on Christian and evangelical values, and increasingly both sides of the communities here has really been getting more and more involved in St Patrick's Day.
And Doogie Beattie, quickly, we did hear some talk in the previous couple of weeks about there perhaps being a heightened security risk around St Patrick's Day this year. There have been some online hatred from Islamic State. I'm hoping everything so far has passed off completely peacefully, has it?
Well, it has so far, and that threat came in Dublin, which is the main parade in Ireland. It is a fantastic parade to watch. It takes a couple of hours to go past. Many international guests and bands from all over the world take part in it, and yes, there has been an Islamic threat to it. The Garda Síochána in the Republic of Ireland are really saying they have sorted that out and they don't see it as a threat anymore. But really, it shows you where it's going in Ireland at this minute in time.
Good, thank you very much there, Doogie Beattie in Downpatrick, and Sophie Reaper there, still marching away ahead of that band in Liverpool. Beautiful, fantastic report on the pair of you. Thank you very, very much, and a very happy St Patrick's Day. Wasn't that wonderful? Now, coming up, Toon Army, but first, if you're in search of some winter sun this year, then here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest winter sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. There'll be some unsettled weather across Iberia over the next few days. Elsewhere, some sunshine and a few showers too. As for Tuesday, we can expect a few showers across the Canaries, Madeira, some more persistent rain across parts of Spain and Portugal. The central Med looks brighter, 1 or 2 showers around, and then we run into some more persistent rain again across parts of Greece with some hill snow in places here too. As for the rest of the week, well, there'll be some warm sunshine to contend with, 1 or 2 showers too, and some more persistent rain out across western spots.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud will stick around during the rest of the day, but eventually it's going to clear from the east, leading to a chilly night with a frost in places. At the moment, high pressure sitting in the North Sea and a brisk southeasterly wind rotates around that high, with the strongest breezes around English Channel coast, along with a few showers as we go into the evening. But a lot of cloud remains for Northern Ireland and western fringes of Britain, whilst clearer skies start to move in from the east. And with those clearer skies, we'll see temperatures falling away, particularly for Scotland and Northern England, with temperatures in 1 or 2 spots below -5 Celsius. A widespread frost to wake up to. Less frosty, but still rather chilly in the south. A breeze first thing will keep that frost away, but it's going to be a cold wind despite the blue skies. However, plenty of sunshine there across much of Scotland going through the morning. I think Shetland and parts of the far northwest still sticking with a lot of cloud, and Northern Ireland slowest to clear the cloud, I suspect, through the morning. Otherwise, widespread blue skies up and down England and Wales. And although there'll be a breeze in the south for many with light winds and plenty of sunshine, those temperatures will soon rise through the morning and it will warm up nicely by the afternoon. A little warmer compared with Monday, with temperatures in some spots hitting 12 or 13 Celsius. But it's going to continue to feel cool in the wind, especially in the east and across some southern parts of the country. Northern Ireland eventually clears the cloud, but it might take much of the afternoon. Very little cloud elsewhere. Plenty of sunny skies to enjoy on Tuesday afternoon, in marked contrast to Monday afternoon. And those clear skies will remain overnight. That means that another widespread frost will form as we start off Wednesday. But Wednesday's another bright and sunny day. I think by the end of the week we'll see a bit more cloud in the west and 1 or 2 showers.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 3:48 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, up the tune, because in an historic victory for Newcastle United, the Magpies thrashed Liverpool. They did 2-1 at the Carabao Cup final. Now, this marks the end of a 70-year drought of the Geordies, and I bet they drowned that drought in Newquay Brown last night as the Geordies celebrated their first major domestic win since 1969, before even I was born, and I'm no spring chicken. Well, GB News reporter Tony Maguire has been in Newcastle with all the latest.
Yeah, good afternoon, Martin. I am here outside St James's Park, where fans have been moving around all day, picking up their 2025 League Cup winner scarves and really generally just exchanging their best moments from last night, reliving that amazing match play by play when Newcastle United beat Liverpool 2-1 in the Carabao Cup, ending that 70-year drought of no domestic silverware. Now, if you can picture this scene behind me, it was just filled with fans last night celebrating the way that football fans do best. Many of them have never actually seen their club lift any kind of trophy. So for them, this has been a hugely emotional 24 hours, and lots of them, of course, that is spilling over into today. A few people preemptively booking the day off. They were going to celebrate one way or another now, weren't they? But talking to some of the members of the Toom Army today who have actually travelled from a bit further afield, one lady from Ireland who's obviously got a double dunt now with St Patrick's Day today, and then a few more who've relocated around the UK, well, you really do get a sense of just how much last night's victory had meant to them. What was your reaction to that final score? Did you believe it?
Oh, no. We're boss Liverpool, but aye, absolutely champion.
So you were 8 years old the last time Newcastle
Yeah.
silver?
I asked my dad. I couldn't remember seeing it because I could remember the following year, which was Birmingham and Man City. And I said, Dad, did I see the Man City game? He said, I did.
It's just so thankful, isn't it? It's just such a weight off everyone, really,
I think still in a bit of shock, really. It kind of doesn't feel real. I think as a Newcastle fan you get so used to disappointment, or certainly have over the last few years, so it's been amazing to see us finally win a trophy after so long.
It's just amazing, absolutely. There's nothing like it, and there's nothing like a Geordie fan. Brilliant. I used to come up here with my ex-husband. He died recently, so we scattered a few ashes up here. Perfect moment, it was meant to be.
Well, there you go. They're going to be able to describe their emotions and their feelings of last night way better than I ever could. But even here outside St James's Park, everybody has got a spring in their step. Everyone's eyes are now on Europe in some form or another. And then surely beyond that, world domination, what else could it be? But for Newcastle, this has been a week to remember. And certainly they can't wait to see their trophy come back with their players and take the lap that they deserve after that amazing performance against Liverpool.
Marvellous stuff there. Tony Maguire at St James Park. I was there a few weeks ago when they beat my team, Forest. Let's just make sure you don't do too well, lads, eh? Don't overtake Forest in the league. But I'll be joined later in the show by Sir John Hall, of course, the former owner of Newcastle United, is now 92 years young, and he said to me when I was there a few weeks ago, I don't think Newcastle are ever going to win anything again in my lifetime. Well, Sir John, this one was for you. Sir John, of course, signed Alan Shearer, then broke the transfer record. He was also the guy that brought Kevin Keegan in as the gaffer. They thought that was the high watermark. I watched the game yesterday. Well done, Newcastle United. I don't think there'll be a single neutral fan in the family will begrudge you for an excellent, truly wonderful Cup final. Now, loads of you have been getting in touch with your thoughts throughout the big stories of the day by going to gbnews.com/your say. Connor says this on the situation of Mike Amesbury, the former Labour MP, of course, who sat down with Gloria De Piero for a GB News exclusive. Connor says, interesting to hear people calling out the Runcorn Rocky as a thug, but they rushed the defence of Lee Anderson when he assaulted Steve Bray just last week. There we go. Connor, if you think that is an assault, flicking a hat, that's in any way comparable to Mike Amesbury punching someone to the ground and then raining 5 blows on their skull afterwards, then I suggest you have a long look in the mirror. The two situations are not comparable. A flick of the hat there, nothing at all like Mike Amesbury. And I should know, I filmed that. I had a ringside seat. It was not remotely the same. Now, Neil from Yorkshire adds this. You did not get a free car on PIP. You give up your allowance that allows you to live a near normal life. I totally agree the bar should be higher, though the PIP application process is already thorough. This, of course, is the Motability story. There's now a £7 billion industry of giving away cars to the disabled. And the point being, a lot of people are saying, perhaps if you have ADHD or agoraphobia or a mild form of autism, you're not actually fully disabled, and lots of people are getting a car at taxpayers' expense. Linda adds this, I'm unimpressed that reform could only get 29 councillors in effect. Hardly worth shouting about. Well, 29 is a start, but as you say, 29 is not the number perhaps that many would have expected. But look, it's 2 weeks on from that reform hoo-ha with Rupert Lowe. Today is a positive news day for them, at least they're trying. Martin says this, I don't understand who are these numpties that still want to vote Labour after all this government have done. Well, be careful, not everyone is a numpty, although of course we found out last week that wasn't our offensive word. And I'm fed up with Sir John Curtis. He is not Mystic Meg. Well, he's just a pollster, and that's what they do. Now, get in touch because next week's Nigel Farage has announced that 29 councillors have defected to Reform UK, but can they soar at the local elections in May? Or have we reached the high watermark for the party? I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, and now it's time for your weather.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud will stick around during the rest of the day, but eventually it's going to clear from the east, leading to a chilly night with a frost in places. At the moment, high pressure sitting in the North Sea and a brisk southeasterly wind rotates around that high, with the strongest breezes around English Channel coast, along with a few showers as we go into the evening. But a lot of cloud remains for Northern Ireland and western fringes of Britain, whilst clearer skies start to move in from the east. And with those clearer skies, we'll see temperatures falling away, particularly for Scotland and Northern England, with temperatures in 1 or 2 spots below -5 Celsius. A widespread frost to wake up to. Less frosty, but still rather chilly in the south. A breeze first thing will keep that frost away, but it's going to be a cold wind despite the blue skies. However, plenty of sunshine there across much of Scotland going through the morning. I think Shetland and parts of the far northwest still sticking with a lot of cloud, and Northern Ireland slowest to clear the cloud, I suspect, through the morning. Otherwise, widespread blue skies up and down England and Wales. And although there'll be a breeze in the south for many with light winds and plenty of sunshine, those temperatures will soon rise through the morning and it will warm up nicely by the afternoon. A little warmer compared with Monday, with temperatures in some spots hitting 12 or 13 Celsius. But it's going to continue to feel cool in the wind, especially in the east and across some southern parts of the country. Northern Ireland eventually clears the cloud, but it might take much of the afternoon. Very little cloud elsewhere. Plenty of sunny skies to enjoy on Tuesday afternoon, in marked contrast to Monday afternoon. And those clear skies will remain overnight. That means that another widespread frost will form as we start off Wednesday. But Wednesday's another bright and sunny day. I think by the end of the week we'll see a bit more cloud in the west and 1 or 2 showers.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm Alan Wright. In Northumberland, the A1 has been closed northbound after a collision. It's shut between the Felton turn-off at East Thurston and the Swarland junction. In South Yorkshire, the M1 northbound is partly blocked after a collision between Meadowhall at junction 34 and Rotherham junction 35. In Lancashire, the M61 is queuing southbound. There's a lane blocked there by a broken down vehicle. It's between junction 8 for Chorley and junction 6 for Horwich. And in Cheshire, some long queues on the M6 northbound. 2 lanes are shut there after a car overturned. It's between junction 18 for Middlewich and junction 19 for Knutsford and the A556.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
You could be the next big winner of the Great British Giveaway, as we have an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash to be won. Cash that you'll be able to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also give you the latest Mulberry handbag, and not 1, but 2 sought-after designer watches, so you can style it out this spring. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very good afternoon to you and a happy St Patrick's Day. It's 4 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. On today's show, Nigel Farage tried to put the Rupert Lowe civil war behind him today by announcing 29 councils have defected to Reform UK, with Reform looking set to soar in May, according to the polls, and the Tories plunging. Will this, however, be enough? And shamed former Labour MP Mike Amesbury has sat down with GB News for his first interview since he was jailed for punching a constituent. But can the Runcorn Rocky drag his shattered reputation off the canvas? Or has his reputation been landed a knockout blow? And Newcastle United have made history by winning their first cup in almost 70 years. On today's show, I'll be joined by former United owner Sir John Hall, the man who signed Kevin Keegan as gaffer and broke the world transfer record to bag Alan Shearer as striker. But even he couldn't lift a trophy. He'd given up on Toon winning anything in his lifetime, but now they have. And Sir John joins me later this hour. And a very, very happy St Patrick's Day to you indeed, except, of course, if you're one of the people scamming cars on the Motability scheme. Incredible figures out today. £7 billion of taxpayers' money per annum now spent on getting cars to the disabled. But the question is everybody disabled genuinely? What else can explain a 1,400% boom in people with ADHD getting a car on this scheme? And talking of bills going through the roof, I'll be joined by Rob Bates in a moment. He's in the studio with me. An incredible set of data out showing £7.5 billion per annum going on universal credit bills for foreign-born nationals. Now, putting that into context, it's 5 times the amount spent on the winter fuel allowance for pensioners in 1 year. 5 times the money going on people born overseas. Is that correct in your eyes? Get into gbnews.com/yoursay. But now's your headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Good afternoon. It's just after 4 o'clock. Our top stories. The Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall has promised to ensure trust and fairness in the social security system ahead of expected cuts to it tomorrow. The Work and Pensions Secretary confirmed to MPs in the House of Commons that the cuts will be announced imminently, although they are already facing criticism from some Labour MPs and campaign groups. Sir Keir Starmer's spokesman says the Prime Minister is determined to fix the broken system he says is holding the country back. He's denied the upcoming reforms are being carried out because of the current economic problems. He says there is a moral and economic reason to make the changes. It follows comments from the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, that the UK is over-diagnosing mental health conditions, with the number of people claiming disability benefit for anxiety and depression doubling in the past decade. Nigel Farage has announced 29 councillors who've defected to Reform ahead of local elections in May. It takes the party's total number of council seats to more than 100, the defections coming from a selection of parties, including the Conservatives, the Lib Dems, Labour and Independents. Mr Farage says it demonstrates how his party is broadening and deepening. Well, it comes in the wake of a dramatic row between Mr Farage and one of his fellow MPs from Reform, Rupert Lowe, which he addressed during the speech, saying the party's become increasingly concerned about Mr Lowe's conduct.
Let's just suspend the whip and let's find out what the truth is. And we will wait. First, we will get the report from the independent King's Counsel, who's been appointed. I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but some anticipation that it might happen during the course of this week. And later on, perhaps it'll take some time, we'll hear from the relevant parliamentary committee too. Has it caused some consternation? Of course it has. Any argument that seemed to happen within the family does. But I can promise you that in terms of our progress and our planning, that upset is very much at the edges.
More than 30 countries are understood to be involved in Sir Keir Starmer's coalition of the willing attempt to broker peace in Ukraine. It comes as Donald Trump has said he'll speak to Vladimir Putin tomorrow about ending the war in Ukraine, and he mentioned they would talk about dividing up certain assets. The US president said he and Putin will also discuss land and power plants when they hold talks on Tuesday. Thames Water has been given approval to borrow another £3 billion to stop it going bust after a court rejected several appeals against the plan. The UK's biggest water supplier was granted the loan last month, preventing the prospect of it being taken over by the government. But a small group of creditors objected, arguing instead the firm should be placed in special administration. Well, that has been overruled. It will allow the struggling company to carry on for at least another year while it attempts to restructure its debts of almost £20 billion. A British tourist is missing after a fire broke out on a diving boat in Thailand. The 26-year-old backpacker Alexander Clark was reportedly in the bathroom when the blaze began on Sunday morning. Local time, that is, in Thailand. Local police there have said at least 16 people on board were tourists. Finally, the Princess of Wales has marked St Patrick's Day with the Irish Guards Regiment in London. Catherine visited Wellington Barracks. She presented medals to soldiers who've recently returned from Iraq. Kate, dressed in bottle green, as you can see there, presented the traditional sprig of shamrocks to the officers, the guardsmen, and also the Irish wolfhound. That's the mascot called Seamus at the regiment's annual parade. She was also seen sipping a pint of Guinness. That's it for the moment. I'll be back with more at 4:30.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Aaron Armstrong. Now, Nigel Farage has today welcomed 29 councillors who have defected to Reform ahead of the local elections in May, as he insisted the party would not be damaged by the row involving Rupert Lowe, the former Reform MP, of course, for Great Yarmouth. Now, 15 of the councillors have joined from the Tories in a further blow to Kemi Badenoch's party. Kemi Badenoch due to call to speak around about 5:30 this afternoon. We're joining me now in the studio to discuss this is GB News' political editor, Chris Hope. Chris, welcome to the show. So it's been a torrid fortnight for Reform, it has to be said. Is today's announcement something to throw out there? So go, look, everything is dandy, no problems at all, nothing to see here. And if so, was it consequential enough as a moment, or is it a bit of a damp squib?
It's been a rocky 2 weeks for Reform UK. Nigel Farage admits that. This, in a sense, is what parties do. They try and change the subject. He pulls out 29 candidates, one of whom, slightly amazingly for me, and you, I think, from the Liberal Democrats, other ones former Conservative councillors, making clear that he's our, look at it, with the momentum is with us. Here it is physically 29 candidates formerly of other parties. The Tory party was already trying to hit back at this, saying that only 7 of them were actually new. Others have been previously announced before, so 22 of them have been previously announced before. That's fine. You know, in one place it looks impressive, and they're trying to show momentum because today's a very big day. Mike Amesbury has formally quit as an MP in an interview with GB News, Gloria de Piero. That means we are shortly going to find out when the election will be, or the by-election will be, and also looking into those local elections. Many are saying in Parliament it's time to unite the right, and that was a question I put to Nigel Farage. He's Reform UK's leader.
In terms of this Unite the Right campaign...
Oh, please.
Will you unite right and do a deal with the Tories?
I don't know what you're talking about. You know, can you even imagine if we contemplated a deal with the Conservatives? Half our voters are stay at home. They don't want the Conservative Party. They've been failed by it. They want something new. They want something fresh. They want something with genuine ideas and values.
You mentioned just finally there, Rupert Lowe. Is he dead to you? Can he get back in if he's cleared by the investigation or the KC?
Well, let's just see what the investigations say. I wasn't very happy last week. He suggested that I'd try to stop him talking about rape gangs. I mean, nonsense. But look, let's wait and see.
There you have it. That's Nigel Farage saying wait and see, not saying no. I'm a Farage watcher, as you are, of course, Martin Daubney. I see an element there. He may try and do a deal and get Lowe back on side. They are fighting against the political establishment. Why fight amongst themselves?
Well, I think a lot of people out there would hope that there could be some reconciliation. That may be some way off, though. And what about the councillors that have been put out today, then? I mean, people are looking at May as, again, another bellwether for the party. Can they pick up a lot of seats in these May elections? They're certainly hoping so. They're putting a lot of cause on this and that by-election, which actually might all happen on the same day, with a big first test of reform as a party of opposition, and also a big referendum of the Labour Party.
The most important thing here is they are fighting 1,641 council seats on the 1st of May. That is a lot for a party which barely got going at this time last year. And in fact, Nigel Farage only became leader, of course, on the eve of the general election. So that shows the scale of the ambition. You know, I think the vetting issue will not go away for this party. Right now, no question, people in CCHQ and Labour Party are beavering away, going through a list of names, trying to find embarrassing issues to embarrass Nigel Farage about. But I think they've got you know, they should be gaining hundreds of seats. We heard that from Sir John Curtis, the Professor of Politics at Strathclyde University, just an hour ago, and certainly be a very, very bad day for the Tories. I expect them to lose half their council seats, and that's why Labour probably, who should go up because it compares with a very difficult period for Keir Starmer 5 years ago, that's why we are expecting them to have the by-election on the 1st of May. So if they can get a big lift there from increasing their numbers of councillors, and if they lose that seat, 15,000 majority in Runcorn and Helsby, well, it might be overlooked by a lot of people.
Thank you very much, Chris. Excellent. As ever, now stick with us, because moving on, benefits are being claimed now by over 1 million foreign nationals in Britain. Figures from the Departments for Work and Pensions show that households with at least one foreign national claimant received more than £7.5 billion in universal credit in just 1 year alone. Well, joining us to discuss this in the studio is the Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates. Rob, astonishing numbers, and in fact, we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. The countries involved, it's the same old culprits. Talk us through the numbers, talk us through the top nations.
Yeah, so I think the most important figure actually that's been revealed today was the one produced by the Centre for Policy Studies, which is that those foreign nationals claiming benefits or in households where a universal credit claim is being made are taking out £7.5 billion every single year. And this is a huge fiscal cost that those of us who have been sceptical and somewhat sceptical of the mass migration experiment for a long time have been warning about. I think it's also important to recognise that we have over 1 million individuals that are foreign-born in the country claiming some type of benefit, whether that be universal credit, whether that be housing benefit or disability allowance, things like that. It's not including child support and other such things, and pensions and such as that. We can see from these figures that have been revealed, the kind of propensity of a nationality and individuals from a certain nationality to claim some form of benefit. And I think it's really important that policymakers, as they're going forward, start taking these kind of things into consideration. We're about to see tomorrow Liz Kendall, announcing big cuts to the welfare bill, but I would argue that it's incredibly unjust that we have a situation where 1 million individuals born outside the country are able to sign on, claim benefits, a lot of them after just 5 years in this country.
A lot of people will be looking at these numbers and saying, how can it be, Rob Bates, that we give away £7.5 billion in universal credit in 1 year alone to the households with at least one foreign national claimant, top being the Congolese, then Iraqis, Afghans, all of those nations more than 4 times more likely to claim benefits than Brits. £7.5 billion. That's 5 times the amount of the winter fuel allowance not giving to pensioners. And it asks the big question, how can it be that Labour MPs will have a big problem with things like this, giving £7.5 billion to foreign nationals, but don't seem to have a problem with taking £1.5 billion of British pensioners?
Our priorities are all wrong at the moment, and I think it's really important to recognise that this situation will be getting a lot worse in the coming years. The Boris wave that we saw under the last Conservative government, where millions were given visas, will lead to those individuals starting from next January, being able to claim indefinitely to remain, which gives them settled status, which gives them right to claim benefits, which gives them rights to bring individuals over, which gives them a whole host of benefits that are effectively citizenship. It's effectively an anti-room to citizenship, which I don't really know if 5 years is the right time frame for these kind of benefits to be bestowed upon an individual. The idea that someone who's come in on a very low-skilled, low-wage job has contributed enough to the economy and to Britain over 5 years that suddenly we have to kind of be accommodating them and supporting them. It doesn't feel right, and I think it shows the very issue at the heart of the immigration system, which is that we are far too accommodating. We're not expecting enough contribution from those coming to the country.
Rob Bates, Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, reacted to your figures, and he said that the benefits bill for foreign nationals is unacceptable and astonishing. What would you say to that?
Well, I think he's right, but I would also argue that the Conservative government over the last 5 years have allowed those coming in on work visas, dependents and students to absolutely skyrocket as a number, and they've also presided over the proliferation of the indefinite leave to remain system. About 95% of applications for people applying for settled status are approved, which is criminally high percentage. And then, that equates, if you sort of work out the figures using those per nationality, that probably in the last 5 years we've allowed an additional 160,000 benefit claimants to come into the country in some form or another. So the Conservatives are doing a lot to kind of push back on their previous track record, but the fact of the matter is that it was something they were presiding over just a few months ago.
And Rob, it's quickly worth pointing out that this bill is certain to increase, because 800,000 foreign nationals are currently expected to receive indefinite leave to remain in the UK over the next decade, following those record levels of immigration under the previous Conservative regime, as you said. And once they're given the right indefinite leave to remain, that's the precise moment they can start claiming benefits.
Yeah, it's an absolute ridiculous part of our immigration system, frankly. It was something that was created in the 1970s when net migration was actually in the negative figures. I don't really understand the purpose of it in this day and age. We have, individuals on work visas, but we also have them being given citizenship. We don't need this weird kind of anti-room that exists in the immigration system. It's an anachronistic, and it needs to be done away with if we want to really get to grips with the spiralling cost of mass migration, because we all know now it is an economic cost, despite what the open border fanatics and faux professors and whatever seem to claim. We know that 70% of individuals coming into the UK in 2023 were earning less than is needed for them to be making a positive economic contribution, even whilst they're working. And that's even before we start getting into the fact that these individuals then go on to claim benefits in many large numbers once they get indefinite leave to remain.
Okay, thank you very much, Rob Bates, Centre for Migration Control. And to continue this conversation, I'm now joined by the Professor of Economics and Public Policy at King's College London, Jonathan Porter. Jonathan, welcome to the show. So here we go again. We have a current conversation about cutting back on benefits going around in Parliament. I would put it to you that a great many people will be looking at this figure today and saying that £7.5 billion in 1 year alone spent on universal credit for those born overseas is a complete slap in the face of hard-working British taxpayers, particularly when you consider it's 5 times the amount of money that the Labour Party took away from British pensioners over the winter fuel allowance.
I think what your viewers ought to be about, Razor, is that you at GB News continue to peddle fake news about this. So let me be quite clear. First of all, the headline you just had, foreign nationals benefit from. Remember, a very large proportion of these people are not foreign nationals. They're British because they've been here long enough to acquire citizenship. So that's the first thing.
But they were born overseas. It says foreign nationals.
So,
they might become British citizens, but that's when they get the benefits. There's nothing fake news about that. That's a statement of truth. Stick to the facts.
Are you saying that somebody who come here has worked, has been here 15, 20 years, somebody who came here as long ago as Windrush, or indeed my parents who came here 50 years ago and has acquired citizenship and are now British, are you saying they are foreign nationals? Because that's what
I'm saying they were born overseas, which is what this data shows.
You're quite right. They were born overseas. Are you saying they're foreign nationals even though they have a British passport? Let's be clear. Are you saying that somebody who was born overseas, has been here 15, 20 years, worked all their life, and has British citizenship? Are you saying they're a foreign national, or are you going to change
Rob Bayes wants to get on this to answer your question. Rob, answer.
Jonathan, you've misunderstood the data, I'm afraid, as not for the first time, unfortunately. These are foreign nationals. The £7.5 billion bill is foreign nationals, those without British citizenship. So what you're talking about is you're comparing pears and apples. You're talking absolute nonsense, unfortunately. No, it's foreign nationals. It's individuals in a household with a foreign national residing.
You're quite wrong, because I actually have the data release in front of me. It's from the Department of Work and Pensions, where I used to work and where I used to be responsible for this data.
No, it's foreign nationals. It's individuals that are foreign national. And
I know what the data... Let me be clear. Let me be absolutely clear here. I know where the data comes from. It comes from the HMR and DWP systems. I used to be responsible for this data. This data records nationality at the time of registration. And it very clearly says in the footnotes, which you, since you're a clown, obviously a faux think tank, didn't bother to read. It says very clearly...
Jonathan, there's no need to be insulting. Please don't insult my guests. We don't do that to you. Treat them with respect and stick to the data. Please answer the questions and don't be rude.
I'm sticking to the data, and the data says, I've got it here on my screen. It says this data cannot be used as a proxy for nationality.
You're confusing NINO registration at the point of someone registering for national insurance number, which is where you do end up arguably with a load of foreign-born individuals that become British citizens. But this Freedom of Information request done by the Centre for Policy Studies very clearly requests foreign nationals, individuals that haven't obtained British citizenship. So you can read whatever you like off the screen, but the fact of the matter is, Jonathan, it's wrong.
It comes from the same data, and you've got it wrong.
No, it doesn't. It's a completely new revelation. The data that we use, which is the foreign-born individuals, is those individuals that were foreign-born at the point of their registering for national insurance number.
It's very regrettable that Robert hasn't done his homework before coming to this program and doesn't know the data. But anyway, that's my point. And let me point out another thing where we clearly can see you, Martin, unfortunately, are still guilty of disseminating fake news. You still have up on your Twitter feed, 1 in 12 in London is an illegal immigrant, quoting a Daily Telegraph story. Now, that story was retracted. It was corrected by the Daily Telegraph because they counted, again, hundreds of thousands of people who were legally in the country as illegal immigrants. The Telegraph published a retraction, the Times published a retraction.
Jonathan, are you going to answer the question about this story, or just like go through every single thing you decide is factually incorrect and come on national television? You've already called one of my guests a clown. Now you're going off about something on Twitter. Answer the question about today's data.
Well, I just think if we're going to have a serious conversation that...
You're not having a serious conversation. You come on national television and call one of my guests a clown. That is not the basis of a serious and respectable conversation.
If you have a serious conversation, then perhaps you should correct your errors when they are publicly retracted by the newspapers that printed them, but rather than continuing to have them on your Twitter feed. Of course,
Jonathan Porter, you haven't answered any of the questions put to you today. You've come on, you've insulted my guests, you've been trawling through Twitter looking for inaccuracies. Are you going to talk about the figures today or not? I want to ask you a simple question, Jonathan Porter, and answer it without being rude. Do you think it's acceptable that £7.5 billion of British taxpayers' money is being given to people in benefits who are born overseas when that's 5 times the amount taken off British pensioners? People have a problem with that. Do you agree?
I agree that, as we have seen from the data published by the Office of Budget Responsibility and others, that overall people who come here, people who come here to work typically, make a significantly greater contribution in tax than they take in benefits and public spending. That means that, other things being equal, if we had lower rates of immigration, we'd have to have higher taxes or worse public services, less money spent on public services. That is well known. It's not particularly controversial. On average, the people who are coming here are likely to be net contributors to the Treasury, not net recipients. Of course, some of them claim benefits, more of them pay taxes. The net benefit to us is quite significant.
Okay,
Now,
well,
on that
there is
basis,
a
of
whole
course,
raft of information to show that that's not the case across Denmark, across Holland, across Germany.
Yes, but
and
it's
in
true in the
fact,
UK.
Jonathan Portes, when you look at tax recipients by benefits, you are right to say that there are a small number of very high net worth immigrants, tend to be from America, Australasia, South Africa, and other Western European nations, as opposed to those at the other end of the spectrum, the likes of Afghanistan, Syria, and Iraq. So you can't compare all immigrants together. It's simply not credible data. Look, Jonathan Portes, we have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much for joining us on today's show. Now, we tried to keep that civil. I don't know if we succeeded. Let me know what you think. If you're going to come on this show, play the ball. Don't play the player, OK? Let's move on. Let's move on. It's St Patrick's Day today, and Princess Kate has been getting in the mood and drinking a Guinness. Good on her. More on that next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here with an exclusive opportunity just for you, our incredible GB News viewers. We're giving you the opportunity to win a VIP studio tour right here at GB News HQ. Plus, you'll also get to meet yours truly. It's easy to enter, just head to gbnews.com/community competition and follow the easy steps. Don't miss out, enter now, and I'll see you soon at GB News. Full T's and C's apply.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 4:27 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, happy St Patrick's Day to you, because millions of people across the globe are gathering, of course, to mark the occasion today. And we're joined now by GB News reporter Dougie Beattie, who's in Downpatrick. Dougie Beattie, welcome back to the show. So the early part of the day, this part, the more civilised part of the day, is about the family side of things. And later on, we're building up towards opening time. Tell us more.
Yes, you've hit the nail right on the head there. That's exactly. We've came to Downpatrick, number one, because it is the burial place of St Patrick. But number two, Downpatrick, like most of the country parades here, is a very family-orientated event. Most of the schools are off for a public holiday in Northern Ireland. So in the mornings, right up to about 6, 7 o'clock at night, everything is aimed towards the family. It's actually aimed at their history as well. I mean, this morning we were in a reenactment of a 5th century camp, what they dressed like, what weapons they used, what instruments they played. Then we went to an Irish dancing class that were on display, a trad band, and then of course was the carnival itself. The big parade took about an hour to pass through thousands of people that lined the streets, and then just behind us on the stage behind us was a country singer that was on for about 2 hours. So really it is a family event and it has gone down extremely well.
Thank you, Dougie. And we heard about there may have been some security concerns across Ireland. There were some online threats from Islamic State, but mercifully things seem to have gone peacefully thus far across the Emerald Isle.
Well, they have, and of course that was quite worrying in Dublin, that the Islamic threat that was coming that way. In fact, there's been last Friday there was an announcement that the PSNI here are looking at treating a stabbing here of a 51-year-old male as an Islamic terror attack, the first that will have been on Irish soil. But what the PSNI are doing there is really saying, we have looked at this guy, they're saying that he has no mental illness, and it's really leaving it in the hands then of the judiciary to say otherwise. So the police very much covering their own back there. But yes, there was problems in Dublin, but the Garda Síochána there seem to have quelled that as well and are ahead of that. So things seem to have gone off okay in Dublin today. But it is, of course, the main St Patrick's Parade right across the world, actually, because it has people from all over the world, including the United States, to take part in those events. But it was good to see that St Patrick's Day has passed off. The children here are really being brought into their own culture, really educated on it and where they come from and what their heritage is. And that is the good point about St Patrick's Day.
Super stuff. Dougie Beater there from Downpatrick. Thank you very, very much indeed. And Princess Kate has been enjoying the celebrations. And to tell us more, we're joined by GB News' royal correspondent, Cameron Walker from Wellington Barracks. Cameron, welcome to the show. And we heard glorious stories about the princess downing a pint of Guinness earlier.
Well, downing a pint may be a bit of a stretch, Martin. I was in the room and she was nursing a half pint of Guinness, but she did put a lot of money behind the bar, I'm told, and she was actually thanked by one of the guardsmen in Wellington Barracks behind me, and the princess told him that it's the least that she could do. So I suspect tomorrow morning there may be a few sore heads of the Irish Guards at Wellington Barracks. But of course, the whole point of the princess being here was the St Patrick's Day parade, attended by friends and family of the Irish Guards. The princess presented a number of medals to some of those who have conducted good service in the Irish Guards, but she also spoke to family members as well, including one mother whose daughter actually plays against Princess Charlotte, Princess Catherine's daughter, on several occasions. Their schools are rivals, we're told, and they were joking to each other about the fact that the summer months are coming, which means it's much nicer to stand on the sidelines of the football pitch or whatever sport Princess Charlotte plays. There was a lovely moment on the parade grounds as well behind me where the princess stood on the dais. The national anthem was played. Of course, it is the first time since 2023 the Princess of Wales has taken part in the St Patrick's Day parades, because last year, of course, she was secretly battling cancer. The princess was given 3 cheers by the Irish Guards as well. And there was a couple of cute little children who, let's say, tried to photobomb an official photograph of the Princess of Wales, but she took it in a very good stride. And of course, the whole point celebrating St Patrick's Day, the camaraderie of the Irish Guards. She is their royal colonel, and it appears the day went very well. And just a quick note to end on, the princess was talking to a Australian reservist here in the Irish Guards and was hinting at the fact that she would like to return to Australia with the Prince of Wales and perhaps her 3 children as well at some point, if she can find the time. She was reminiscing about her previous trip in 2014 when Prince George was a baby, and she said that it was Prince George finds it fascinating that he has visited for Australia and New Zealand. So nothing in the diary yet, I understand, but of course it is a possibility because Prince William will one day be head of state in Australia.
Magnificent stuff. What a great roundup there. Thank you very much for bringing us up to speed. Cameron Walker from Wellington Barracks on St Patrick's Day. Thank you very, very much. So there's lots more still to come between now and 5 o'clock, including our restrictive licensing laws killing live music, because guess what? It looks like street crime in London might be the true reason that licences aren't being given out. Is Dangerous London killing the nightlife off? But first, here's your latest news headlines, and it's Aaron Armstrong.
Hi there, a very good afternoon to you. It's 4:33. Our top stories. Downing Street says there are both moral and economic reasons to drastically change the welfare system as the Prime Minister comes under pressure from Labour MPs over the plans. Well, the Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall has pledged in the Commons today to ensure trust and fairness in the social security system ahead of those expected cuts to benefits. They're due to be announced tomorrow. Well, she came out fighting when challenged by the opposition over speculation, suggesting she still doesn't have the full support of the Cabinet.
From a government that left 1 in 10 working age people on a sickness and disability benefit, 1 in 8 young people not in education, employment or training, 2.8 million people out of work due to long-term sickness. Terrible there for them, their life chances, their incomes and health, and terrible for taxpayers who are paying for an ever-spiralling bill for the costs of failure. Unlike the party opposite who wrote people off and then blamed them to get a cheap headline, we will take decisive action, get people into work and get this country on a pathway to success.
Nigel Farage has announced that 29 councillors have defected to Reform ahead of the local elections in May. It takes the party's total number of seats to more than 100. Speaking at a Reform UK News conference, the party leader announced that they'd come from a selection of parties, including the Conservatives, Labour and the Lib Dems, and says it demonstrates how his party is getting broader and deeper.
We are growing, we are building, we are deepening, we are broadening, we are strengthening, we are getting ready for the 1st of May. This party is very, very much on the up.
Donald Trump says he and Vladimir Putin will discuss land, power plants and dividing up certain assets when they hold talks about Ukraine tomorrow. The US president told reporters on Air Force One he hopes to have something to announce on Tuesday after a lot of work was done over the weekend. Now, the Kremlin's confirmed the call will take place. There was no further elaboration. Russia yet to agree to the 30-day ceasefire plan presented by the US last week. They want Ukraine to be prevented from joining NATO. All of this comes as Ukraine and Russia have continued to trade drone and missile attacks. The mayor of Kyiv, Vitaly Klitschko, says the capital of Ukraine was hit overnight, while damage from a Ukrainian strike has been reported in southern Russia. Finally, Thames Water's been given approval to borrow a further £3 billion to stop it going bust after a court rejected several appeals against it. The UK's biggest water supplier was granted the loan last month, preventing the prospect of it being taken over by the government. But a small group of creditors objected to the plan, arguing instead the firm should be placed in special administration. However, the extra £3 billion will allow the struggling company to carry on for at least another year while it attempts to restructure its debts, which are almost £20 billion. That's it for the moment. More from me at 5 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm Alan Wright. In Northumberland, the A1 is closed northbound at East Thurston. That's after a collision between the Feltham turnoff and the Swarland junction. In Cheshire, there are 2 lanes shut on the M6 northbound. That's after a vehicle overturned between junction 18 for Middlewich and junction 19 for Knutsford. In Hertfordshire, the M25 clockwise is partly blocked by a broken down lorry. That's at junction 23 for the A1M, with queues back past St Albans at junction 22. In Surrey, the London-bound M3 is blocked after a collision. It's happened midway between junction 3 for Lightwater and Bracknell and junction 2 for the M25.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website GBNews.com.
Britain's newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
I watched the video yesterday with Meghan Markle announcing this relaunch. What did you make of the video?
It's constantly this rebranding thing that's going on, which is quite interesting. We've had different kind of, way back to Sussex Royal at the very beginning. Here we've now got this new lifestyle series that's coming out. Obviously, she's got this new brand that's going to go alongside it. It's very difficult because royals, as we've said many, many times before, this is not something royals typically kind of do. And obviously these are no longer, if you like, working members of the royal family, but still Prince Harry, as I keep saying, is a senior member of the royal family. So it's quite a kind of uncharted territory that they're going into. And as I said, this is a bit of a disaster because everything they seem to kind of do when it comes to branding, it just doesn't seem to work.
They seem to really be struggling to find their purpose in the US. Do you think that's fair? I mean, Prince Harry, of course, has got the Invictus Games, which is just the most wonderful thing that he has set up. But it appears that they're not obviously part of the royal family anymore in terms of working royals. They're not senior working royals, but not able to make it in the business world yet either.
You're right, Elliot. I think the Invictus Games is definitely the kind of saving grace. That's the thing that everybody kind of admires and respects them for. But then it's when they keep going back into this kind of celebrity branded lifestyle. I don't think anyone's really that hugely interested. As you said, in the States, you kind of hear people are for them, people are against them. I think most people would rather that they went kind of doing this. I think we've said this so many times before that, as members of the royal family, they should continue down that line and going into this kind of business world. It just, I think I'm right in saying historically with royals and kind of business, it doesn't really work.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. It is 4:40 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the boss of an iconic jazz bar has the blues after claiming that London's restrictive licensing laws are killing off live music in the capital. The Blue Note Jazz Club had its late licence application refused after the Metropolitan Police claimed that allowing the club to remain open until 1 a.m. serving alcohol could cause an uptick in crime. But it's not for the reasons you might think. To discuss this now, I'm joined with the CEO of the Nighttime Industry Association, Michael Kill. Mike, always a pleasure to have you on the show. When I read this story this morning, I thought, here we go again. They're clamping down on licensors because they don't want noise. They don't want people to enjoy themselves. They want to be puritanical about alcohol. But then when I read it closer, it appears to be that the club is running into trouble getting a licence because there could be crime in the street outside after the club closes, and that's not because of the patrons, it's because of the people outside waiting for them. Is this a case, Michael Kill, astonishingly, where licences aren't being granted because London is now becoming so violent at night, they don't want to give any more licences away?
Well, I mean, look, licensing is a contentious issue. And as you can appreciate, within licensing law, each license has to be deemed on its merits. And as you can appreciate, Blue Note, similar to the likes of Ronnie Scott's and others, is a really culturally important opportunity for London. So the worry is and this attachment to worry around antisocial behaviour and crime is a real challenge within the street in terms of policing and something that the nighttime economy and daytime economy suffer from. So, but from our perspective, it just seems surreal that conversation's happening, that we're actually stopping the opportunity of bringing quite a significant cultural space into London and widely the impact of other live music venues or spaces or performance spaces coming into London, because the reality is we can't police it. And one of the growing issues is we cannot police the streets in London. And the worry that we have is we can't run society on whether we can police it or not. And this is going to be a hindrance. It's going to be an issue around growth and investment. So there is a really, really sort of poor messaging position on this, particularly for London, and something that needs to be addressed not only in national government, but also in terms of the Mayor's office moving forward.
Because, Mike Kill, it's fair to say a bunch of, let's face it, men of a certain age, typically, I'm not being generalistic when I say that, who are intellectual, they earn good money, they enjoy jazz on a cerebral... It's not like the Millwall, Now, this is not like, a sort of gang, a den of iniquity. It's a jazz club. And yet, is that the precise problem? They're being identified as people of a certain age. They might have a nice watch. They might have a nice wallet. They're becoming targets for street criminals, hanging around places, waiting for them to turn out, to go for them. We've seen gangs all over the place in London now, targeting people with nice watches, targeting people where they know the money goes. I put it to you, is this club losing its ability to trade in case people mug them?
Well, that's part of it, without a doubt. I mean, we work very closely with the Soho Business Alliance, and we recently spoke at one of their meetings, and it was very, very clear that there are huge challenges. Soho suffers from a lack of things like CCTV, lighting, but without a doubt, the most onerous or challenging position is the lack of policing after a certain time in the evening. And that's one thing that we have to address, even to the point that businesses are now deciding to fund their own private police forces to police the streets, which is surreal that we're even having that conversation given the cost of operating within these environments. So work needs to be done. Without a doubt, licensing at the moment is very contentious and is creating a hindrance. So we need that as a non-fiscal intervention from government. But more importantly, we need more police on the street, because at the moment, crime and disorder is a huge challenge, particularly in London.
So it really is concerning, Mike, that we had COVID. Obviously, that decimated the industry at the time. You and I spoke about that right from the very, very beginning. Then we had the national insurance rise. We've had the minimum wage rise. We've had electricity costs. Every single supply-side cost seems to hurt and hinder the nighttime industry. It's the very fact that you can still run a tight ship, still put on a great show, still keep your venue safe, still treat people with decorum and respect, but you can't get a licence in case there are some scumbags outside waiting to mug your clients, strikes me as absolutely and utterly unfair and grotesque. It really does.
It really is. And if you think about it, we do such a good job of trying to keep these venues safe. And, we have professional security. We have staff that are very aware of things like duty of care and safeguarding. And to think about it, the hindrances outside are actually preventing us from expanding and growth. And we're even seeing license applications that are being put in and they're being stopped in many respects because of these reasons right the way across London. If anything, if I'm going to be completely honest, it's something that's systemic across the UK, not just London. So I think we have some huge challenges, but we need to deal with what's outside. If this was a high street supermarket or something like that, and it was an issue outside in the middle of the day, they'd be dealing with it. And I think the nighttime economy deserves that. We bring a lot in terms of domestic visitors and international visitors, particularly into London and across the UK. So we need to work collectively with the key stakeholders, the Mayor's office, the local boroughs and policing. But policing at the moment is a real challenge and needs to be resolved as quickly as possible before we get to a point where people start to not come.
Perhaps that's already happening. Thank you very much for joining us, the CEO of the Nighttime Industry Association, Michael Kill. Thanks for joining us. Now, the Met said that jazz fans leaving the venue late at night could become a target for phone snatchers, as well as illegal taxis who prey on vulnerable, intoxicated, lone females. Now, the point there that Mike Kill would no doubt make is that how is it fair that they're not allowed to have a licence? Because there are street issues, there are crime issues. When people come out of them, it seems that we're just not getting this right, and perhaps danger in city centres isn't just affecting people on the streets. It's stopping people even being able to open a venue in the first place. Incredible situation. Now, moving on, if you're in search of some winter sun this year, then here is the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest winter sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. There'll be some unsettled weather across Iberia over the next few days. Elsewhere, some sunshine and a few showers too. As for Tuesday, we can expect a few showers across the Canaries, Madeira, some more persistent rain across parts of Spain and Portugal. The central Med looks brighter, 1 or 2 showers around, and then we run into some more persistent rain again across parts of Greece with some hill snow in places here too. As for the rest of the week, well, there'll be some warm sunshine to contend with, 1 or 2 showers too, and some more persistent rain out across western spots.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud will stick around during the rest of the day, but eventually it's going to clear from the east, leading to a chilly night with a frost in places. At the moment, high pressure sitting in the North Sea and a brisk southeasterly wind rotates around that high, with the strongest breezes around English Channel coast, along with a few showers as we go into the evening. But a lot of cloud remains for Northern Ireland and western fringes of Britain, whilst clearer skies start to move in from the east. And with those clearer skies, we'll see temperatures falling away, particularly for Scotland and Northern England, with temperatures in 1 or 2 spots below -5°C. A widespread frost to wake up to. Less frosty, but still rather chilly in the south. A breeze first thing will keep that frost away, but it's going to be a cold wind despite the blue skies. However, plenty of sunshine there across much of Scotland going through the morning. I think Shetland and parts of the far northwest still sticking with a lot of cloud, and Northern Ireland slowest to clear the cloud, I suspect, through the morning. Otherwise, widespread blue skies up and down England and Wales. And although there'll be a breeze in the south for many with light winds and plenty of sunshine, those temperatures will soon rise through the morning and it will warm up nicely by the afternoon. A little warmer compared with Monday, with temperatures in some spots hitting 12 or 13 Celsius. But it's going to continue to feel cool in the wind, especially in the east and across some southern parts of the country. Northern Ireland eventually clears the cloud, but it might take much of the afternoon. Very little cloud elsewhere. Plenty of sunny skies to enjoy on Tuesday afternoon, in marked contrast to Monday afternoon. And those clear skies will remain overnight. That means that another widespread frost will form as we start off Wednesday. But Wednesday's another bright and sunny day. I think by the end of the week we'll see a bit more cloud in the west and 1 or 2 showers.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back. 10 to 5 with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, up the tune, because in an historic victory for Newcastle United yesterday, the Magpies murdered Liverpool 2-1 in the Carabao Cup final. We can now speak with the former chairman of Newcastle United, Sir John Hall. Sir John, I'm so happy I got you on the show today. I think it's the first time you've used Zoom in your life. 92 years young on Friday, and finally you've got a trophy. You were around when you got the first one, last one 70 years ago, but mate, you must be on top of the world.
It's difficult to express how I feel. I've read it all these years. Yeah, it's my birthday on Friday, and I like to think it's a wonderful, wonderful birthday present. I couldn't do one. I had the club. It's taken a long time and taken a lot of money to be put in, and it's just great. Actually, the feeling is incredible. It's wonderful to be here. You know, I can't describe it. It's going to take the club to new dimensions, I believe. We've broken basically this problem of not winning things. But, you know, football is so much our passion in this area. And just a little interesting thing, when you're born, when I was born here in the pits all those years ago, you're born with 3 things. You're born with religion, which is Methodist. You're born with politics, which was Labour, of course. And you're born with a football team, which was north of the river, which is Newcastle. You can get rid of the first 2, but you never get rid of your football team. And that's, you know, it's a strange thing, but today it's broken the mold. And now I believe the club can go forward, and you know, we get a new stadium. We've got the money behind us. The future's all ours if we take it, but you can't describe how we feel. It's impossible to put it over. All these years, I don't know why we could never do it, but we're here now, and we're not going to go away. You can tell the rest of them, we ain't going away, mates. We're here, and we're going to be winning, and we're going to challenge you. Great news, great news. That's wonderful, wonderful. And it's also wonderful that you're here, GB News, to fight for us. I'm very, very grateful what you're doing for the UK.
That's very, very kind of you. And you've seen those glory days. Kevin Keegan, of course, you brought to the club. Alan Shearer, McDermott, Dalglish there, the legends. But this, does that top even all of that for you?
Well, we've won something. The football we played at the time was wonderful. You know, we were Britain's, England's, everybody's second. And it was wonderful. It was great. But we didn't win anything. We 12 points in the lead for the league. And we failed. And I don't know why. And we were actually planning the victory parade. And so we lost to the Man United. And that time when Alex basically baited Kevin. But never mind, it's life goes on. And for the youngsters today, my time's over. As I don't know how many years I've got left. But it's the kids now, this next generations are coming in. They've got something to hang on to. They've seen a win. And, it's all for them, all for them. Like me, I'm doing things now for my great-grandchildren. Many years have passed, but I do have that quiet satisfaction of basically, I think, before my birthday. It's a wonderful birthday, but who wouldn't welcome such a gift? But no, wonderful times. The Northeast...
So, John Hall, we're going to have to leave it there. But look, happy birthday, 92. You put in so much effort, so much money, so much passion over the years, and you've got it. You live for that trophy again in your lifetime. I'm so happy for you and the entire city of Newcastle. So, John Hall, marvellous to have him on the show today. Absolutely wonderful. Stick with us. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud will stick around during the rest of the day, but eventually it's going to clear from the east, leading to a chilly night with a frost in places. At the moment, high pressure sitting in the North Sea and a brisk southeasterly wind rotates around that high, with the strongest breezes around English Channel coast, along with a few showers as we go into the evening. But a lot of cloud remains for Northern Ireland and western fringes of Britain, whilst clearer skies start to move in from the east. And with those clearer skies, we'll see temperatures falling away, particularly for Scotland and Northern England, with temperatures in 1 or 2 spots below -5 Celsius. A widespread frost to wake up to. Less frosty, but still rather chilly in the south. A breeze first thing will keep that frost away, but it's going to be a cold wind despite the blue skies. However, plenty of sunshine there across much of Scotland going through the morning. I think Shetland and parts of the far northwest still sticking with a lot of cloud, and Northern Ireland slowest to clear the cloud, I suspect, through the morning. Otherwise, widespread blue skies up and down and Wales, and although there'll be a breeze in the south for many with light winds and plenty of sunshine, those temperatures will soon rise through the morning and it will warm up nicely by the afternoon. A little warmer compared with Monday, with temperatures in some spots hitting 12 or 13 Celsius, but it's going to continue to feel cool in the wind, especially in the east and across some southern parts of the country. Northern Ireland eventually clears the cloud, but it might take much of the afternoon. Very little cloud elsewhere, plenty of sunny skies to enjoy on Tuesday afternoon, in marked contrast to Monday afternoon. And those clear skies will remain overnight. That means that another widespread frost will form as we start off Wednesday. But Wednesday's another bright and sunny day. I think by the end of the week we'll see a bit more cloud in the west and 1 or 2 showers.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm Alan Wright. In South Yorkshire, the M1 northbound is partly blocked after a collision at junction 36 for Barnsley South and the A61. In Greater Manchester at Newton Heath, Oldham Road, the A62, that's been shut both ways after a collision. Closed between Old Church Street and Peel Street. In Hertfordshire, long delays on the clockwise M25. That's partly blocked by a broken down lorry at junction 23 for the A1M, with queues back past St Albans at junction 22. And in Surrey, the London-bound M3 is closed after a collision. That's shut just before junction 2 for the M25, with queues back to junction 3 for Lightwater and Bracknell.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
We're giving you the chance to splash out this season with an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash. Jet off on your dream holiday, treat yourself to something special, or just save it for a rainy day. You'll also receive 2 brand new designer watches and a Mulberry handbag, so you can really look the part this spring. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A very, very good afternoon to you and a very happy St Patrick's Day. It's 5 p.m. Welcome to the Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you, as ever, live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. And we've got some breaking news for you. Moments ago, the King, there we go, King Charles met with Canada's new Prime Minister, Mark Carney. Is this a show of support to Canada in the wake of Donald Trump's threat to annex it? And Nigel Farage tried to put the Rupert Lowe civil war behind him today by announcing 29 councillors have defected to Reform. But the lips are wagging today. Could Rupert Lowe return to Reform? Nigel Farage earlier didn't seem to rule it out. More on that after this. Also on today's show, the shamed former Labour MP Mike Amesbury has sat down with GB News for his first interview since he was jailed for punching a constituent. But can the Runcorn Rocky drag his shattered reputation off the canvas? Or has his reputation been landed a knockout blow? That's all coming in your next hour. Welcome to the show. A pleasure to have your company. Could there be a return to Reform for Rupert? Well, when Chris Hope, our political editor, earlier on posed that question to Nigel Farage, could Rupert Lowe be welcomed back into the party? Nigel Farage said, let's wait for the report. Has there been a cooling of the rhetoric between the two Reform heavyweights? Could the door be opened to a return? Should that happen? Or is it too late? Let me know your thoughts. Should Rupert Lowe be welcomed back into the fold at Reform UK? Is it time to let bygones be bygones? Is it time to unite and win against the Labour Party? Or is it too late for that? And anyway, is it too much of an uphill task? Today, 29 councillors defected. Is that enough? Or is the mountain simply too big to climb? Get in touch. Would you like to see Rupert Lowe welcome back into Reform UK? gbnews.com/your say is the way to get in touch. Now it's your headlines on St Patrick's Day with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much. Martin, very good evening to you. Let's get you up to date with the headlines. Downing Street says there are both moral and economic reasons to change the welfare system as the Prime Minister comes under pressure from Labour MPs over the plans. The Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall has pledged to ensure trust and fairness in the social security system. As she was speaking in the Commons earlier ahead of Those expected cuts to the benefit system, they're due to be announced tomorrow. And she came out fighting when challenged by the opposition over speculation suggesting she still doesn't have the full support of the cabinet.
This from a government that left 1 in 10 working age.
Nigel Farage has welcomed 29 councillors who've defected to Reform ahead of local elections in May. It takes the party's total number of council seats to more than 100, the defectors having joined from a selection of parties including the Conservatives, Lib Dems and Labour. The event comes in the wake of a dramatic row between Mr Farage and Rupert Lowe, which he addressed in the speech, saying the party have become increasingly concerned about Mr Lowe's conduct. But could one of the party's 5 MPs be brought back into the fold?
Let's just suspend the whip and let's find out what the truth is. And we will wait. First, we will get the report from the independent King's Counsel, who's been appointed. I don't know exactly when that's going to be, but some anticipation that it might happen during the course of this week. And later on, perhaps it'll take some time, we'll hear from the relevant parliamentary committee too. Has it caused some consternation? Of course it has. Any argument that seemed to happen within the family does. But I can promise you that in terms of our progress and our planning, that upset is very much at the edges.
Donald Trump says he and Vladimir Putin will discuss land, power plants and dividing up certain assets when they hold talks about Ukraine tomorrow. The US President told reporters on Air Force One he hopes to have something to announce on Tuesday after a lot of work was done over the weekend. Russia have yet to agree to the 30-day plan presented by the US last week. They want Ukraine to be prevented from joining NATO. Meanwhile, Ukraine and Russia have continued to trade drone and missile attacks. The mayor of Kyiv, Vitaly Klitschko, says the Ukrainian capital was hit overnight, while damage from a Ukrainian strike has been reported in southern Russia. Thames Water's been given approval to borrow another £3 billion to stop it from going bust after a court rejected several appeals against the plan. The UK's biggest water supplier was granted the loan last month, preventing the prospect of it being taken over by the government. However, a small group of creditors objected to that plan, arguing the firm instead should be placed into special administration. The loan will allow the struggling company to carry on for at least another year while it attempts to restructure its debts of almost £20 billion. And the Princess of Wales has marked St Patrick's Day with the Irish Guards Regiment in London. Catherine presented the traditional sprigs of shamrock to officers, guardsmen as well, who have recently returned from Iraq. At Wellington Barracks, the Princess, who has been colonel of the regiment since 2023, missed the celebrations last year after being diagnosed with cancer. She was also seen sipping a pint of Guinness. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with more at 5:30.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Aaron. Now, early today, Nigel Farage has tried to put the Rupert Lowe civil war behind him today by announcing 29 councillors have defected to Reform UK. But will we see a way back for the Reform heavyweights? Well, that's, of course, Rupert Lowe. Well, Farage didn't seem to rule out Rupert's return earlier in the day, and it certainly got tongues wagging in Westminster. Let's talk about that now with GB News political editor Chris Hope. Of course, the big story for the past 2 weeks was Rupert Lowe cast out of the party, into the political wilderness. A social media battle ensued, the police involved. Everybody can agree, quite unsightly stuff. You were inside the belly of the beast, as it were, earlier on. You looked Mr Farage in the eyes and you asked him about this. And a lot of people saw your clip, Chris, and they're thinking, could there be a thawing of relations on the cards?
So Farage told us that this announcement, 29 candidates have come across. By the way, the Tories say that only 7 of them are new. The rest of them have been talked about in the past or announced by Reform. But nevertheless, bringing them together shows a degree of physical momentum behind Reform UK. He said to us in terms, we've been through a little bit of turbulence in the past couple of weeks. Well, haven't they ever? This massive falling out between Rupert Lowe, the Elon Musk favoured leader of Reform UK, and Farage himself. And that's where you... But yeah, I thought, when we asked him earlier about this, and for GB News, he said the KC, this King's Council, might come back with a view this week. And also, the way he answered was very un-Farage-like. Have a listen at home and see what you think of what he's really saying here.
In terms of this Unite the Right campaign...
Oh, please.
Will you unite the right and do a deal with the Tories?
I don't know what you're talking about. You know, can you even imagine if we contemplated a deal with the Conservatives? Half our voters are stay at home. They don't want the Conservative Party. They've been failed by it. They want something new. They want something fresh. They want something with genuine ideas and values.
You mentioned just finally there, Rupert Lowe. Is he dead to you? Can he get back in if he's cleared by the investigation or the KC?
Well, let's just see what the investigations say. I wasn't very happy last week. He suggested that I'd try to stop him talking about rape gangs. I mean, nonsense. But look, let's wait and see.
There you are, Martin. You heard it there. Yeah. Let's just see what the KC comes back with. The KC now, being paid probably thousands of pounds by Reform UK because King's Council are expensive, could be the way back in for Rupert Lowe.
A lot of people are getting rather excited about this because, you know, nobody likes to see whatever family falling out, do they? And I know that they're like two silverbacks, aren't they? you know them both. Yes. I know them both very well. They're like two silverbacks brooding around a paddock. But perhaps now they're thinking we'd be better off together. We're better off fighting a common foe. I always say to you, Chris, I find it so interesting, when you're there and you're close and you can see, look people in the eyes, you pick up much more information than you ever can on camera. Did you see a softening of attitude?
It's certainly the answer, I think. I mean, he looked tired, I think. It's been a brutal 2 weeks for them. He'd also been up there defending Zia Youssef, the party chairman, against what he said, Nigel Farage, were racist attacks on him online. I asked him who he meant, and he was very clear who he meant. Hear what he had said to us earlier.
Who is a senior member of your party who has faced online abuse and racism?
Oh, it's not very hard to work it out. It's the chairman. Frankly, what's been said about him over the course of the last 2 weeks, I mean, all of these people, had it been Diane Abbott or somebody else that had received this, I mean, you can't imagine what the media coverage would have been, but because it's us and it's Zia, no one cares. It's awful.
So naming Zia Youssef, the party chairman, getting abused, we don't know what it was. It probably was appalling. We haven't seen it above its in terms of Twitter and the like, but certainly not very nice for the chairman. That chairman's put in £200,000. He got Farage back. Farage joined the party knowing that Youssef was there and in the sidelines. So I think, you know, it's appalling, frankly. But it's interesting to hear how Farage there has been very clear.
There are some people out there saying, oh, you know, stop being a snowflake, you know, we should, the political right shouldn't be responding to this in the way of the political left, but we don't know what the abuse was. We can't possibly put ourselves in the shoes of Zia Youssef, and nor should we. In the same way, as you said, if this was happening against the Labour Party, that you would have no right to question it. Is there a way for all of this mess the last few weeks to be put behind the party, and in particular, of course, now we're looking forward not only to the council elections today, but that by-election. You know, Chris, you've been around politics a long time. People have a quick habit of forgetting bad news if you win a big election.
Very quickly. So in the summary, there'll be 30 rallies held by Nigel Farage over the next 6 weeks, going up into May the 1st local elections. He's standing, or Zia Youssef said they're standing, 1,641 candidates. That is a huge number of people. They may win 200 seats. That is huge momentum behind this party. But going towards that date on the 1st of May, when we expect, not confirmed, but we expect that to be the date of the Runcorn and Healthy by-election. Mike Amesbury quit on GB News today in an interview with our colleague Gloria Tapiero. They've got a real chance there. 14,696 majority for Labour at last election, but that must be in range for Reform UK. No question, I think, that Farage thinks he can get them. By the way, Labour have chosen their candidate, Karen Shaw, and the Tories have chosen Sean Holston. We wait to see, probably this week, I guess, Reform UK's candidate. But the battle is moving very rapidly to Runcorn and Helsby, the first big test, I think, of this party. And also, what's so irritating for this party, they've got 4 MPs now They had 5. They fell out with Rupert Lowe. They are desperate to build a number 6, 7, 8. To have a falling out, frankly, over a battle of egos, I think, really. I mean, there was some bullying allegation but denied by Rupert Lowe. That battle looks increasingly ridiculous. By-elections are brutal. They're expensive. You've been there. Yeah, I've been there. And what's so interesting about this, I think there's no such thing as a safe seat anymore. We've seen enormous majorities overturned in Conservative seats, losing out to Liberal Democrats, and this has been a Labour seat since the dawn of time. But we live in such volatile political times. The attack on Farage would be very clear. Already, I spotted on social media fighting for Putin vans. Farage's face on vans in Runcorn, suggesting that he would be someone who hasn't criticised Putin in the past. Farage says that was 10 years ago. He admired him as a strong leader, but of course is appalled by what happened in Ukraine and the like. But that idea of whose side is Farage on, can you trust him with national security? That is what I think both Labour and the Tories will push quite a lot in Runcorn and Helsby. I think the citizens of Runcorn are going to be glad when this one's over. I think it's going to be absolutely flooded with activists of all political stripes, and also not just political stripes, but as you said, perhaps activist groups trying to damage Mr Farage and the Reform Party in that seat. What a by-election that's going to be, and I believe the Reform candidate's going to be announced perhaps later this week. I think this week. I did ask Nigel Farage. He knows now, with I think the writ to be moved probably this week. That means that the date will be set for the by-election. No time to waste for Reform UK. And of course, Lib Dems fighting it, and the Greens, and all sorts of monster Revenue Party groups as well. Astonishing. What a great day in politics. Very, very busy day for you, as ever. Chris O, the best in the business. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, moving on. Benefits are being claimed now by over 1 million foreign nationals. And figures from the Departments for Work and Pensions show that households with at least one foreign national claimant receive more than £7.5 billion in universal credits in just 1 year alone. Incredible figures. And joining me now to talk about this is a political commentator, Mike Jones. Mike, welcome to the show. Simply mind-boggling numbers. We're hearing about a war on benefits, cutting back on benefits. The Labour Party talking tough on this. And just when they think it can't get much more complicated, these figures pop up. £7.5 billion in 1 year alone, 1 million claimants, and £7.5 billion, Mike Jones, in simple maths, that's 5 times the amount of money that British pensioners lost in the winter fuel allowance. A lot of people are going to be saying this is a lot of money. What can be done about it?
Well, yeah, it's an economic crime scene. It's a fiscal time bomb, and it completely debunks the idea that we're letting in the best and the brightest. You know, people who are highly skilled, who are going to be net contributors. I mean, the numbers are just astonishing. You know, more than 1 million foreign nationals are claiming universal credits. You know, the cost to the taxpayer about 7.5 billion if you're looking at households with at least one foreign national claimant. And yeah, this raises very serious questions about indefinite leave to remain. It raises very serious questions about the Boris wave, the cohort of migrants that arrived here during Boris Johnson's tenure. And yeah, the numbers are just astonishing. I think there are 40 nationalities who are actually claiming more per capita than the British population. And I think 3 of those nationalities, Iraqis, Congolese, and Afghans, are actually claiming 4 times the amount than, you know, your average British person. It's, you know, it's a ticking time bomb.
You're absolutely right. And we have that chart on your screens there. Now, let's get that chart back just so people can get some perspective on this. Look at the bottom there, UK nationals set in there at 100, as in a 100 percentile. And then the multiples above them go to the top there, more than 4 times likely, as Mike Jones said, 4.45 times more likely, actually, residents from Congo. Then it's Iraq on 4.3 times more likely, Afghanistan 4.1 times more likely, Algeria 3.6 times, Eritrea 3.5 times. You get the picture. We have a huge amount of people more likely to claim benefits than Brits. And Mike Jones, you're absolutely right to point out the time frame. We had Chris Philp today saying this is outrageous. It's astonishing. You're correct, Mr. Philp, and it happened on the Conservative Party's watch.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, when legal migrants come here, they can't actually claim benefits straight away because there's no public recourse to funds. But obviously, after 5 years and you claim indefinite leave to remain, that picture changes completely. Obviously, asylum seekers receive settled status when their applications are accepted. So yeah, this is, it's a ticking time bomb. And I think we have to radically look at the concept or rethink the concept of indefinite leave to remain. It was introduced by the 1971 Immigration Act. It's not set in stone. It's not part of the British Constitution. I think we need to take a massive look at this. We could go down the Swiss route, make the conditions much tougher. You could extend indefinite leave to remain, or you could go down the route of Iceland and actually have two options. Either you renew your visa or you assimilate and attach very tough conditions to citizenship. But, it's ironic that the Labour Party, they're seeking savings, efficiency savings in the welfare state. And, I'm not against that in principle. I think you've got to be very careful at targeting people with disabilities. I'm against that on moral grounds. But yeah, savings can be made. But, here you're looking at huge sunk costs, huge opportunity costs, 7.5 billion. How many hospitals, schools, how many public sector staff could you hire with that money? It's just absolutely outrageous. And as I said previously, it debunks the myth that, our immigration policy is there for the best and the brightest. This isn't benefiting the national interest. It's not benefiting the British public.
It's worth also pointing out that on top of that, there is an additional £5.4 billion per annum for accommodating and supporting a backlog of more than 100,000 asylum seekers. And that's a 500% increase in 5 years under the past Conservative government. Add all that together, £13 billion per year. In 1 year, £13 billion just on benefits for those born overseas and those living in asylum accommodation in Britain. And Mike Jones, I'll put it to you again. When you compare that to the seemingly piffling sums of money, £500 million a year expected from inheritance tax increases to farmers, £1.4 billion per year to British pensioners, these figures absolutely dwarf those savings.
Yeah, they're completely misplaced priorities. And the thing is, I think around 800,000 migrants are expected to apply for indefinite leave to remain over the next decade. And, I can assure you, if you look at that as a whole, that is not going to be beneficial for the British taxpayer. And there's an additional element to this. If you pay 10 years of national insurance, you're entitled to the state pension. And let's not forget here, the state pension is basically a Ponzi scheme. And a lot of the liabilities there are not on the books. So what are going to be the long-term consequences of our immigration policies today? I think at the bare minimum, we need caps on visas. We need to bring it down to net zero, balance migration as a starting point. And for asylum policy, we need to get rid of the Human Rights Act or disapply sections of the Human Rights Act to immigration policy so we can detain and deport people who arrive here illegally. That's what needs to be done. Will the Labour Party go down that route? I'm sceptical.
OK, well, Mike Jones, thanks for your expertise. As ever, a pleasure to have you on GB News. Thank you. Now, a Department of Work and Pension spokesman said this to GB News: "We have a duty to pay benefits to all of those entitled to receive them. Universal credit is designed to incentivise moving people into employment and progression at work and has a thorough application process." Now, we want to make your spring spectacular in our latest Great British Giveaway with your chance to win an astonishing £17,777 in tax-free cash. It's the Lucky Sevens. These are the details that you need to enter.
Spring has sprung with a great British giveaway, and we're giving you the chance to splash out this season with an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash. Jet off on your dream holiday, treat yourself to something special, or just save it for a rainy day. You'll also receive 2 brand new designer watches and a Mulberry handbag, so you can really look the part this spring. For another chance to win the lot, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, coming up after on the day that Nigel Farage went on the offensive against Conservatives, we're due to listen to Kemi Badenoch. She's trying to channel her inner Iron Lady at a Thatcher conference ahead of yet another relaunch tomorrow. We'll tune into Kemi Badenoch. That's coming next with me, Martin Daubney, and Chris Hope here on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new Royal Newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new Royal Newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Welcome back. It's 5:26. I'm Martin Daubney here on GB News. Now, a happy St. Patrick's Day to you if you're still sober enough to understand what I'm saying. Because millions of people across the globe are gathering, of course, to mark the occasion where all Pad is on St. Patrick's Day. And I'm joined now by GB News' Northern Ireland reporter Dougie Beattie, who's in Downpatrick. You've been there all day. Festivities for the family going on all day. Dougie, now we're building up towards, how should you put it, something a bit more liquid. Tell us more.
Yes, well, it has been a fabulous day here in Downpatrick. Very, very family orientated. Started this morning with a village that was built to mirror that of the 5th century, taking children through, showing them what sort of clothes they would have wore. A bit of history about St. Patrick himself. This morning we interviewed the actor who was playing St. Patrick in the parade. Then we went up to the Irish dancing and trad band. All extremely, extremely good, I must say. And then, of course, the festival itself, the big parade from one end of the town to the other. This, of course, is the burial site of St. Patrick. I'm standing outside the St. Patrick's Exhibition Centre. And then just behind me in the square, there was a live bands playing and quite a party atmosphere going. And as you said, now the children go back home and the adults, I suppose, come out to play. But having spoke to a few of them, they actually said to me that if St. Patrick's was on the Friday night, this carnival would go off and then they would spend the weekend. Of course, most people are off work today in Northern Ireland, including the schools. So some of them not so keen to go out this evening because they will have to return to work tomorrow. But really, Martin, a really good atmosphere. And the thing that really stood out for me was how they teach the children their culture, their history, and they allow other cultures to take part. But really, the culture of their Christianity is first inside anything to do with the St. Patrick's Day parade here in Downpatrick. It's not the same sort of party atmosphere as you would get in Belfast or Dublin. Again, very, very family orientated.
Dougie Beattie, I wonder if that's something that makes people so, not jealous, but envious and have great admiration for St. Patrick's Day, because it's unashamedly patriotic, unashamedly celebratory. But over here in England, we're made to feel almost ashamed of St. George's Day. It's something that is seen as slightly toxic or racist, but the Irish and the whole world still love St. Patrick's Day. It's wonderful.
Well, part of that, the reason the whole world love it is because it comes right in the middle of Lent. It gives any of those people who are taking part in Lent an excuse to break it. It was quite clever, actually, setting that date. But no, it really is a lesson to be learned by all those who don't want their culture to be stood upon or set aside or put to the back. They are very accepting of other cultures. I mean, today in the parade here, there was lots of Chinese dragons, etc. But they really do put their culture, their religion to the front and say, look, this is us, you're welcome here, but we want to teach our children about their own history and their own culture. And when you see it done, such as it's been done here today in Downpatrick with that family atmosphere, you really have to say that might be the way forward.
And Dougie Beattie, quickly if we could, you and I have been speaking for the past couple of weeks about there being a potential terror threat towards some events, mainly in Dublin. I think they were aimed at. I believe there's a no-fly zone around Dublin today because of the potential maybe of drones. Islamic State were getting involved with some threats, but mercifully thus far, Dougie Beattie, everything going completely peacefully.
Everything seemed to have gone completely peacefully. But as you said, that threat was a real threat. It was taken by the Garda Síochána very seriously indeed. And of course, we know the problems through immigration that have been in the Republic of Ireland for quite some time. Those are now starting to appear in Northern Ireland. Lots and lots of immigrants coming in to Ireland, both sides of a border that, of course, is controlled by Europe. Northern Ireland, part of the UK, but it is controlled by the EU. And of course, the Republic of Ireland, that is part of the EU. It is starting to cause problems here, especially in around areas like South Belfast. That has seen the most immigration of all coming into Northern Ireland, and they're travelling across a borderless border as they come up from the Republic of Ireland, where they have basically free rein to come in and out of the country as they want. And even as Mark White was commenting a couple of weeks ago, they are then just crossing straight across the Irish Sea and into Great Britain itself. I have been talking about that for about 2 years now, and it is now really starting to show.
And Dougie Beattie, I just find this so fascinating. How big an issue is the open borders issue in Ireland? You know, we covered some incredible scenes of some asylum seeker centres being even fired down in the south and outside of Dublin. Is it still very much a country on edge, or have things calmed down now?
It definitely hasn't calmed down, Martin. If anything, it's maybe the wrong day to talk about it, but yes, tensions are getting very, very high in the Republic of Ireland. I mean, I'm speaking to even middle-class people in the Republic that have had enough. They've said they can't get housing for their own children, and really they want that to become the priority for the Irish government, to make sure that there's housing, that there's health service, that there is systems in place to make sure those that were born and reared and paid tax in Ireland get those first before anybody else. Whether you see anything wrong with that or not, that is really the cry now coming out of the Republic of Ireland. In fact, you've seen Conor McGregor in the White House today, and Simon Harris of the Republic of Ireland's government really giving off about McGregor being there, saying that he's not speaking for Ireland. But that, of course, is a problem with open borders, and it's just not in Ireland. It's actually the whole way across Europe. But because Ireland's population is so small, they are feeling it the most.
Thank you very much. Excellent summary, as ever. Dougie Beattie there in Downpatrick on St Patrick's Day. Now, lots more still to come between now and 6 o'clock, including the leader of the Tories, Kemi Badenoch, will be making a speech soon. But can she channel her inner Iron Lady and see off Nigel Farage? That's next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm Johnny Ratner. We've got big problems in South Yorkshire on the M1. The northbound exit is partly blocked at junction 36. That's the Barnsley South exit at the scene of a car that's broken down. In Staffordshire on the M6, 2 lanes are blocked off southbound just before junction 10A. The M54, a lorry's broken down, and there are long queues heading towards London up the M3 this evening, where 2 lanes remain closed just south of the M25. Not being helped by the roadworks, but a car and a lorry have been involved in an accident on that stretch. Really slow the opposite way, heading out of London back past the M25 due to onlookers. Speaking of the M25 on the Hertfordshire stretch, the 2 inside lanes are free, closed clockwise at junction 23. That's the A1M interchange. Emergency repairs continue after an oil spillage and a lorry broke down earlier on, causing long delays. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
First of all, are we talking about the West and the East, or is this a Western phenomenon?
Wholly Western phenomena, which excludes China, where things are still in a healthy state.
What's happening in the West, then?
It's been going on for quite a while, and it started with the universities and then affected the biennales conferences. Basically, it's this left drift and the sense that, as in Vogue, we should care about the downtrodden, the marginal groups, the global south. We should criticize what's going on, and there's a sense of illegitimacy with everything which now is developed in most of the real-world developments we are, for instance, doing, as being neoliberal architecture. And so the discourse is shifting away, ignoring that and saying this is fallen, this is commercial, this is compromised. And we have a discourse about another world caring and looking after those who have been discriminated against, and that pulls a discourse and critical debate away from what's going on, and therefore what's going on is bereft of critique, of exposure, of debate, and becomes a craft.
We are looking at, on the screen at the moment, at some of the great buildings that you have been involved in. So tell me about the background to these. I mean, you were one of the architects here. What was your education? What was your inspiration? What led you to create buildings that look like that?
So I was originally educated in Stuttgart, Germany. I came here as a student, went to the South Bank University in exchange program, and as a student joined Zaha Hadid, was a rising star in the field. And at that time, there was really a thriving discourse in architecture, grappling with this new world.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. It's 5:36. I'm Martin Daubney here on GB News. Now, Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative leader, will soon speak at the Remaking Conservatism event. But can she channel her inner Iron Lady? Can she see off the challenge of Nigel Farage? Well, to look ahead to that speech, I'm joined in the studio still by the force of nature, GB News political editor Chris Hope. Chris, today was meant to be Nigel Farage's moments ago. We've taken some councillors off the Conservative Party. We're coming to get you at the local elections. Meanwhile, Kemi Badenoch, of course, channeling her inner Iron Lady, or at least attempting to. The two are very outspoken in their seeming inability to work together to so-called unite the right. What can we expect to see from Ms Badenoch?
Well, she speaks shortly at an event organised by the Centre for Policy Studies, a Margaret Thatcher event, and many see Badenoch as being quite like Thatcher in the sense that Thatcher became leader in 1975, then had 4 years to rebuild her party going into the 1979 general election. Similarly, she came off the back of the Tory government and then had a one term to try and forge new ideas. We're hearing tomorrow from her with her principles of why vote for me. There's been a problem with Kemi Badenoch's leadership. Where are the ideas? Where's the passion? Where's the reason to vote Conservative? We'll get more of that tomorrow morning, and we'll hear an inkling of that tonight in the Guildhall. I'm looking at numbers, though, and pondering the success of Reform UK, or is it? Because since the 1st of January, there have been 29, Martin, council by-elections. Reform fought 27 and won just 4. 2 from the Tories, 2 from Labour. Since July last year, the election, there have been overall 23 net gains in council seats by the Tories, minus 35 for Labour, and just 12 for Reform UK. So by just net gains, they're doing twice as well as Reform UK, the Tory party. And against those numbers there, Reform aren't really cutting through. And that is the problem. I think Farage would admit that, were he here, Nigel Farage, the Reform UK leader. He knows his party is not yet organised and needs to get organised.
But yet, the personal popularity ratings of Kemi Badenoch seem to be on something of a wane or a slide, or certainly not going in the right direction.
Cut through. No, she hasn't cut through, and she's had some misfires at PMQs. I called one of those. They have 6 questions a week. That's the moment to try and lift the troops, to ask the PM some questions, Sir Keir Starmer. I called one result of those 6-0 to Keir Starmer. They weren't very happy, but I've got to call it as I see it. I don't think she was cutting through. On the day of the farming protest, you were there, Martin. I think you were outside talking to the farmers, and inside the House of Commons, ignored by the Tory leader. I think they got a bit too clever with some of their questioning there. But I think it's a long road. I've been watching George Osborne on stage in this event today. He's saying, year 1 is the easy year. You think you'll be back in power shortly. Years 2, 3, and 4 of a 5-term parliament are miserable for any party in opposition.
If George Osborne is the answer, are we asking the wrong questions? Does this feel like, the Tories of yesteryear? And is that the problem? Is that the problem? Kemi Badenoch, there's much made of the fact she was the first black woman, first to have got that position.
Rightly so, I would say.
Rightly so, but do voters care, or do they care actually about policy, about uniting the party, and is such a thing even possible?
George Osborne's point, which I thought was fascinating, was, yes, we talk about Reform UK, yes, they're a problem for the Tories, and yes, maybe unite the right, as we heard earlier, maybe that is what you need to bring those two parties together. But then, what about the Liberal Democrats? They've got over 70 MPs. They're nibbling away at the kind of soft, moderate underbelly of the Tory beast. And they'd easy could win more support that way. If you force the Tory party too far to the right, they leave the centre open for the Lib Dems.
But George Osborne was, the primary, actually, from the same day as Mark Carney meets the King today. The pair of them, they were the architects of Project Fear.
Well, that's about Brexit. That's not the...
But that's what I'm saying. So why wheel them back out now? Now, what is the relevance of people like George Osborne, who maybe think talk down the country, just trying to derail and destroy Brexit, and he suddenly hoves back into view? Isn't this the Tories of yesteryear?
Don't forget,
Tories
Martin,
that the voters are trying to move away from.
Brexit was never Tory party policy. It was imposed on the party by a vote at that referendum. It was never the party's policy to join the European Union before 2016. It became the policy once the country forced it on that party. Of course, it wasn't Labour's policy until about last election, when they admit they're going to not reverse Brexit, or so they say. Wait and see on that one. But I think, yeah, no question, I think they're looking for ideas. I think that Kemi Badenoch is trying to find principles to believe in. Tomorrow we'll be seeing from her announcing a series of policy reviews across a whole suite of areas. I fully expect ECHR withdrawal to be one of the real pinch points. European
But she was never for that again.
Rights. She says under certain circumstances she wouldn't rule it out.
What are those circumstances? We can't get any electoral traction. We've decided to change our position again because... And again, the conversation that you and I have every single week after PMQs is whenever Kemi Badenoch goes in the offensive about immigration, Sir Keir Starmer can just say, well, you were in charge for 14 years and a million came in last year. Whenever they're asked about the economy, there's always an answer, you're the ones who crash it. And so my point is quite simple. Are the Conservatives able to get away from the fact that that happened on their watch? And actually... is somebody who comes on GB News quite often, certain Mr. Robert Jenrick. Might he be more of a candidate, a future leader?
It's very hard.
A lot of people seem to have the knives out for Kemi, is what I'm saying.
Because it's almost an impossible situation. She's got to defend 14 years of failure, of which she was a minister for just 2 or 3 of those years, and not even in the cabinet for virtually all of that period either. She's defending choices made by Boris Johnson and others to allow large numbers through the front door, the Boris wave, as they call it, that nearly 1 million people arriving in calendar year 2023. They are saying that is indefensible, and it is indefensible. That's why you're seeing Kemi Badenoch and her team pull out this idea that you've got to qualify for twice as long before you become a British citizen and be a net contributor to our economy. It goes back to the issue of benefits. Should you get the right to be a British person if you've only been here for 5 years, make it 10 years. And that's why I think she's trying to clear up her mess. But yeah, she said sorry once. I do remember vividly Keir Starmer apologising for 2 or 3 years about Jeremy Corbyn before he got a chance to be listened to, and only then when the Tory party imploded.
But the difference there is that Jeremy Corbyn was cast out of the party. He sits as an independent on the naughty step at the back. He's no longer a part of the Labour machine. A lot of people just say Kemi Badenoch was a member of that Tory government that oversaw the immigration catastrophe, saw all these things, net zero and the like. And back to that topic there, remaking conservatism. What do you think needs to be done? A lot of people get in touch with me all the time saying, simply say, be conservative. Actually be conservative on taxation, on immigration, on net zero. Do what you're told, what you're elected to do. But we've had this continual problem. There's the wet part of the party, the Liberal Dems, and there's the what you call the true Conservatives. Can those two worlds ever marry, or are they simply two parties within one, as they always were?
Let's take those three things in turn. Taxation, no question, they want to cut taxes. They were blown off course by the £500 billion spent on the energy shock from the Ukraine war and COVID. Let's not even debate COVID because it's a very, very big anniversary day on COVID, but that's why that happened there. Immigration, no question, they got it wrong. She said so, but maybe not enough, I would argue. On net zero, that was a fag end of a Theresa May administration put through. There's never been a single vote on net zero ever in Parliament. Is net zero what they want? Yes, there's been manifestos fought and won on elections, but no MPs have ever voted on whether net zero is a good idea. We are now going down. We are greening the economy. We'll stop relying on fossil fuels, on coal, and we're stopping awarding licences in the North Sea. If that's the right answer, many would say it isn't.
But again, I'll put it to you that the continuum with things like net zero, we're seeing now the Labour Party are in power, was a continuum set into motion by the previous Conservative regime. You know, a lot of people felt Boris Johnson had been captured by the spirit of Greta Thunberg. You know, and that's what happened on the Conservative Party's watch. And things you can say have got worse, or at least gone down a further policy path under the Labour Party, but they didn't oppose net zero in power. They didn't clamp down on immigration in power. They didn't do all of those things then. And so I guess the big question is one of trust. What's changed?
And how do you differentiate between what Labour's doing? So many Labour policies, you can shut your eyes and imagine a Tory government doing it, cutting aid and spending the money on defence. In fact, that was a Reform UK party, by the way, policy, as well as a Tory policy. Cutting benefits, which may or may not happen to a big Again, a Tory policy. Jacking up taxes by billions, again, what the Tory party did. The problem they've got, I think, both parties really, is they are indistinguishable to so many different to voters and people who watch GB News.
OK, well, for the moment, Kemi Badenoch is Kemi Latenoch. She hasn't taken to the stage yet, but we will get you there toot sweet as soon as she lands. And Chris, stick around for some real expert commentary. If you're in search of some winter sun in the meantime, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello, here's your latest winter sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. There'll be some unsettled weather across Iberia over the next few days. Elsewhere, some sunshine and a few showers too. As for Tuesday, we can expect a few showers across the Canaries, Madeira, some more persistent rain across parts of Spain and Portugal. The central Med looks brighter, 1 or 2 showers around, and then we run into some more persistent rain again across parts of Greece with some hill snow in places here too. As for the rest of the week, well, there'll be some warm sunshine to contend with, 1 or 2 showers too, and some more persistent rain out across western spots.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Here with you guys.
Let's cross live now to central London, where Kemi Badenoch is about to take to the stage.
As you heard earlier, been through the...
Yeah, this is the warm back. So Chris, who have we got here?
This is Michael Spencer, and he's a former Tory party treasurer. He helps to fund and I think he's the chairman of the CPS, the Centre for Policy Studies. This body established by Margaret Thatcher for Keith Joseph. What the Tories did back then in the mid to late 70s was rethink what it means to be a Conservative. Many people look at the Kemi Badenoch and think that's what the party needs to do right now.
And Kemi Badenoch will be channeling her inner Maggie Thatcher. So just to explain to viewers, this is a policy exchange around the spirit of Maggie Thatcher. It's been going on for some years?
Yes, it has, yes. It's the Centre for Policy Studies. You're seeing there Michael Spencer, former Tory treasurer, as I say there. He is now introducing Kemi Badenoch. Many Tories think that if she can only channel that energy, that clear thinking that Margaret Thatcher showed, then she's got a chance at the next election. The polls suggest otherwise, and that's why many are disregarding both the main parties and the Lib Dems and going towards Reform UK and Nigel Farage. He's got his own issues because he hasn't got enough MPs to form even a quarter of a front bench.
Is it possible to replicate Maggie Thatcher? Is it possible to replicate people like Winston Churchill? We all hanker, don't we? Especially Conservatives hanker after, if only we'd have another Maggie Thatcher. Is that possible? She seems to be a one-off.
I think she was helped by the fact there was a clear opponent. There was a clear kind of the winter discontent, 78, 79, the issue of the unions running a riot. I think she was able to define herself against something. I'm not sure what you can define yourself against when so many of your policies are the same as Labour's.
Yeah, well, I think we're about to find out what that vision may be. I think now Kemi Badenoch is about to take the stage there. In fact, here she is, the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we honour Margaret Thatcher. Not just...
So clearly, you heard there the beginnings of an intervention, a heckle. Clearly, in the Guildhall, unwanted external activists got inside. Could you hear what they were shouting?
No, I could. How can you do something, was what I heard from the demonstrator. Well, look, we'll try and track down on social media. We've got people who can tell us what's going on in the room. That is deeply embarrassing.
It's always a risk at these things. You remember the day after the general election when Reform UK gave a press conference and there were, I think, 6 or 7 people infiltrated this event, that event then, and heckled out Nigel Farage live on camera. It's always possible.
It's a shame
it seems to happen more and more and more.
The feed there, of course, is controlled by the think tank, not by us, and it's a shame, I think, they pulled away from that. I would like to see Kemi Badenoch take on that the heckler and on her own terms.
Because in actual fact, I think you're dead right. The way you handle criticism, says a lot about the leader. Like Nigel Farage just threw back, have you been on a longer lunch than me?
I think it worked for them. I think for Nigel Farage, it has that ability to...
I think we can go back to now. Let's go back. We're just waiting for this feed to come back up, but I wonder how the hell... Let's go back now. It's still going on. Kemi Badenoch there nervously chortling her way through the heckling. Why can't they just get these people out of there? Sharpish. You can see where they are. Get them out the blooming way and let the leader speak. We're entitled to protest, but this is a private venue. Security should have those people out in their ear within 20, 30
that
seconds,
doesn't happen,
surely.
as you know, and of course we have seen it.
Kemi Badenoch, I think now, is attempting to talk for about the 5th time. Let's try.
OK.
Not just as Britain's first female Prime Minister, but as the leader who saved our country from that lot. She didn't arrive in office to manage decline. She came to reverse it. When she took over, Britain was broken. High taxes punished success. Unions held the government hostage. Inflation soared. Businesses collapsed, and the state grew bigger, taking more control over people's lives while delivering less. Before my father died, I remember asking him why he never bought a home in the UK when he could have. And he said to me, no one really wanted to live in the UK in the 1970s. It was a country in decline. So many wealthy people were leaving that their homes were being sold so cheaply. Mrs. Thatcher changed all that. She cut taxes, backed business, and gave people the right to own their own homes and build their own futures. She stood firm against socialism, bureaucracy, and decline, and she won. For me, Mrs. Thatcher wasn't just a historical figure. She shaped my entire view of politics, of leadership, and of Britain itself. Many of you will know that I was born in London, but I spent much of my childhood in Nigeria, where I saw firsthand what happens when a country embraces socialism and autocracy. There was no Thatcher-style leadership there, no belief in free markets, in personal responsibility, or in hard work being rewarded. Instead, there was corruption, state control, and economic decline. I remember constant power cuts growing up, shortages, and the fear that came with living in a place where the state was strong, but the people were weak. I also remember boys in my class at school mocking girls and telling us our place was in the kitchen. 2 words always shut them up: Margaret Thatcher. When I moved back to the UK as a teenager, I came not to the country in decline that my father remembered, but to a country transformed by Thatcher's revolution, a country that had confidence, energy, and opportunity. I saw what leadership could do, what Conservative principles could achieve, and I realised that Britain was special. I became a Conservative because I saw what happens when government overreaches, when socialism takes hold, and when the individual is crushed under the weight of bureaucracy and the soft bigotry of low expectations. Margaret Thatcher taught me something powerful. If you want to change a country, you need courage, you need conviction, and you must never, ever back down from doing what is right. That belief has driven me ever since. It drove me in business, it drove me in politics, and it drives me today as leader of the Conservative Party. Lady Thatcher didn't just transform Britain at home. She re-established our country as a global power, not just through economic revival, although she did that, but by standing firm in the world, protecting British interests, and refusing to be bullied. She understood a fundamental truth. A strong nation is clear about who its enemies are and what its interests are. She knew that appeasement never works and that weakness invites aggression. Her decision to send a naval fleet thousands of miles away to reclaim the Falklands Islands was risky. Many in Whitehall advised against it. The UN wanted Britain to negotiate them away. Others thought it wasn't worth the fight. But Mrs. Thatcher knew what was at stake. The Falklands were British, and when they were threatened, she didn't hesitate. She stood up for our sovereignty, our people, and our global reputation. She didn't talk, she acted. Compare that to today. Labour is giving British territory away in the Tagus Islands. Billions of taxpayers' money will be wasted on appeasement, handing over land that is strategically vital, ignoring Chagosians who have proudly waved the Union Jack and proudly proclaimed loyalty to the Crown. The excuses we hear about UN court rulings and electromagnetic signals are nonsense. British territory is British territory. Mrs. Thatcher knew that. She defended it. Labour surrenders it. Mrs. Thatcher led Britain through the Cold War, a time when our way of life was under direct threat. She was pragmatic about our enemies. She saw the Soviet Union for what it was, a hostile force determined to challenge the West. She didn't hesitate to use economic power as a weapon. She understood that rapid mobilization forces a quicker, more pragmatic resolution than years of war. Would she have supported a moratorium on gas exports that helps Russia? No. Would she have failed to see what's at stake in Ukraine? No. She would have understood, as we must, that we cannot return to a world where enemy states redraw borders through war. A weak Britain emboldens our enemies. A strong Britain, clear in its purpose, keeps us safe. Britain is once again on the wrong path. Labour has returned to the old failed ideas of high spending, high taxes and more government control. The state is bigger than ever, yet failing in its basic duties. Immigration is too high. Crime is rising, businesses are over-regulated, and working people are being squeezed. Conservatives have to take responsibility for some of this too. We also have to fix it. We cannot meet this moment with half measures. We must be as bold as Mrs. Thatcher was. That is why, under my leadership, the Conservative Party will return to first principles just as she did. Tomorrow, I will be launching the Conservative Party's biggest policy renewal programme in 50 years. We're not announcing detailed policies tomorrow, but we know where we need to get to. We know that we will cut taxes and scrap burdens and regulations so businesses can grow, jobs can be created, and hard work is rewarded. We know we will fight for secure borders and law and order, because a country that cannot defend itself at home or abroad is a country in decline. We know we must shrink the size of the state and end government waste and dependency, because people should decide how to spend their money, not politicians. And we know we must stand up for Britain's values and history, because we should never apologise for our success. Margaret Thatcher understood that you don't fix a broken country by making the state bigger. You fix it by making the people stronger. And that is exactly what the Conservative Party, under my leadership, will do. And it starts with renewal. Just as she rebuilt Britain, we must renew our party, rebuild our country, and save our future. Margaret Thatcher didn't fight to make Britain comfortable with decline. She fought to make it great again. Britain's future will not be written by the socialists shouting in the audience. It will not be written by the bureaucrats or the doomongers. It will be written by us. I wouldn't be standing here today as the leader of the Conservative Party without Margaret Thatcher's legacy. To be honest, none of us would have heard of the Centre for Policy Studies if she had failed. It is our job now to make sure that we all here today live up to her legacy. Thank you.
There you go. That was Kemi Badenoch then, speaking out at a conference all about remaking conservatism, the Margaret Thatcher conference, no less. So she got a lot of channeling her inner Maggie. But what do you reckon? Does that convince you? Do you sit there and go, yes, yes, the Tories are the ones for me, or not?